Welcome, beautiful people around the world. It's your host, Simone, and welcome back to I Was Thinking. So as you can tell by the title, this is going to be a BTS event. Y'all should know me by now. I am an ARMY. This ain't your thing. Just stop listening right now. But I'm calling it the BTS Arirang Extravaganza. Fancy, right? So because there's just so much with this comeback, we've waited so long for BTS to come back. I am dividing this up into two parts. So this is going to be part one, where we just mainly focus about the comeback live that they did in Seoul, as well as the documentary that just dropped on Netflix on March 27th. But I am not alone in talking about this. First, I would like to introduce, she's basically my co-host now, my second co-host. Yes, and you've heard her voice before. It is the lovely Gina.
Hey, everyone.
And we also have another special guest. First time being on here. If you have a TikTok, you may have seen her TikToks, circling around, whether she's giving very philosophical, insight to BTS or the fandom, as well as her very lovely, sexy British accent. Joining us all the way from the UK, it is Shannon.
Hello. I need to make sure I put on said sexy British accent for everybody, obviously.
I love your voice. Okay. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
And I still don't know how to pronounce your username. Is it Shnoon? Shnoon?
Shnoon. Just make noises at my general direction. I'll listen. I'll perk up.
Okay. Yeah. So if you have a TikTok, if you've seen the username Shnoon, then that is Shannon. Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a bit later in the day for me, so my day is just winding down. But I'm very good on this lovely Sunday.
Good. How about you, Gina? How are you doing today?
Actually pretty decent. I actually slept pretty well. Sometimes on the weekends, it's hard to get sleep for me, but I actually woke up and I'm like, I'm actually awake. I need my coffee still, but my brain was actually functioning. So it's not been too bad.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm still, for some reason, recovering because I guess I'm just getting old. Friday night, I did actually go see Twice in Orlando. They came to Florida for the first time. So it was really good. It was a lot different, too. They were my first girl group I ever saw. And it was different because, some of the members are injured. So instead of all 9, it was only 7. But I had a fun time. They put on a great show. And it was also good, too, because I got to experience a 360 stage before BTS.
That's something I've never experienced.
Yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, the stage setup is different than theirs, and it's in an arena. So I'm curious of what it's going to look like in a stadium. But it's a lot. I'm just letting you know right now, it's a lot to focus on because there's sometimes where the members are in the middle of the stage, and then they had 2 sides of extended stages. So sometimes some of them would be in the middle, but others would be on the extended side. And then if they're in the middle, their dancers may come out for one of the more known numbers. And so do you focus on the dancers? Do you focus on them? Do you focus on the screen if their backs is towards you? Because they do try their best to make sure they're facing the whole arena, but there is sometimes, their back is going to be to you. So if you look at the screen, that's where the camera is directing the member's face. It was a lot.
Overstimulation.
Very overstimulating. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like for BTS. And I'm actually going to be seeing them when this episode comes out this month.
I can't believe that.
I know. Are we all excited? Are we ready?
I'm not ready. I feel excited. I think I'm just not ready because I don't even know what to expect. And luckily we do get the Seoul live, when they do the first part of their tour. But even then, I think it's so different when you see it and you're absorbing it and then live seeing it and absorbing it. Because we can have, quote, spoilers by just watching it. But until you're in that stadium, you don't really know what it's going to feel like.
Yeah. I feel like I just don't have a conception that it's actually happening and that I'm going to see them and that they're coming here because it's just been it's my first time ever seeing them as a group. The only other person I've seen before is Jin, and that was last year. And even then, on the day that I was rocking up there, traveling all the way to London to see, I was just am I actually is this happening? And then even when he was on stage and we had a pretty good view, I could see that it was him, but even then I was huh? It was just that's a member, that's in front of my face, and yeah, I don't know what it's. I think even when I see it, the only thing that really it started to sink in was when actually, speaking of the 360 stages, when I saw some of the choreo for some of their performances in this last comeback, and they were doing a 360 design. I was like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. But even then, I haven't been able to like put together that they're going to do that in front of my eyeballs. It's just,
right? It's
yeah.
really daunting to think about because we have never seen them do a 360 stage. They've always just had an end stage. And even the members doing their solos didn't even touch a 360. They had extended stages that you could see, but like all around, but like not something with an open back. And I think that's going to be definitely more overstimulating than we think. So if that was, you know, definitely a lot to take in. I can't imagine 7 men doing high speed dancing and doing choreo, and then with all of them like just shooting out from the center, just going different directions. Like it's going to be, and they don't stand still. None of them stand still when they perform.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like releasing the zoo animals. Like they're just going to be everywhere.
Yeah, they're going to be penned in on all sides by all of us. Like, there's no like downtime. Like, let me just like hide at the edge of the stage because they've got to be on it. But yeah, it's just it's gonna be so good. It's gonna be
fun.
Well, speaking of Shannon only seeing Jin and not all 7 before until this upcoming tour, how actually did you get into BTS? And we know who your biases are, but let the audience know who your biases are, because you have more than one.
I do. I'm greedy. I have both a double bias and I also have double bias records. So I double bias both Namjoon and Jimin, so Mini Moni. And I got into BTS. So it was kind of a weird route really, because it wasn't my first understanding of K-pop. When I'd been in school, which was back in 2011, my friend it was like the dawn of YouTube, and my friend had known about this. She kind of introduced us to this group, like, oh, this is a group, they're from Korea, they're called SHINee. And we just had this kind of strange like fascination with seeing like a music video that was just different and a group that was different in a different language. So we kind of, in like the really early days of what we understood, we kind of stand SHINee, but it was a really like, it was a completely different relationship, because like fandom, it was nowhere near what it is now, like, and it's nowhere near as kind of known, and fangirl, like K-pop standing was completely different. So we didn't really know there was like a community to connect to. We just knew that this YouTube channel that was for SHINee would occasionally come up with music videos, and we're like, oh, another one, let's watch that one. And then fast forward to when so then school ended, did uni, came out of uni, came into the workplace, and we were randomly striking up a conversation in the office about, I think we were talking about like Japanese music, we were talking about Vocaloid, we were talking about things. And then from there we were like, oh yeah, what about K-pop? I heard K-pop is a thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I used to like stan, I didn't know the word stan back then. I was like, oh yeah, I used to watch this group called SHINee. And then I like later that evening, I was like, yeah, like K-pop, like who are the latest in K-pop? And it was as simple as going on YouTube and typing in the letters BTS on YouTube, and the first thing that came up at the top of the search results was Blood, Sweat and Tears. And so I watched that, and honestly, like, people talk about the rabbit hole, and I know a lot of people like it's sort of maybe kind of exaggerated, but it did genuinely, like, a bodily feeling of I was like sinking physically into something. Like I was like overcome with this excitement, because I was like, first of all, this is not what I expected. So it was all the feeling of my expectations had been completely thrown, but also this was exciting, this was cinematic, this was artistic, this was literary, it was based on a novel, the lyrics were not what I thought, the beat was not everything was completely different. And it was something that I was like, I need to know where this goes. I need to know where it came from. I need to know where it's going. I need to know as much as possible. And it was a straight cliff dive basically for me. And that was in 2018. So towards the end. So unfortunately, Speak Yourself had just wrapped when I missed my opportunity. And then obviously we didn't get Mot 7. That would have been my first tour. Didn't happen for any of us. But yeah, so it'll be nearly 7 years just before I actually get to see them, which that bloody 7 again just follows us everywhere. But it's just so great.
Okay.
Who are your wreckers then?
Oh yeah, Soap are my wreckers. So yeah, Kobe and Yoongi. So yeah. So I have all rap line. Just, I mean, read into that what you will, people. Read the psychology of biasing or being wrecked by all of rap line. But yeah, but I tend to my biases. I always follow a weird pattern. I tend to like the rapper daddy and then the dance prince. Across most K-pop groups, they fall into those two categories. So, you know, I am what I am.
Listen, same, because we both share one of the biases. Namjoon, that's my man. That's who got me in. Y'all can go back and listen if you're new to the podcast of how we got into K-pop all the way back in 2020, one of the first like 4 episodes, because my friend Macy was showing me, because she was into them before I was. And like Idol, I'm not going to lie, I was just very confused. There was just a lot of bright colors. I didn't know what to focus on as far as the lyrics or like, you know, them dancing up like a lot's going on. Then she showed me Mic Drop. I was like, okay, Mic Drop, that's more my speed. And then all of a sudden you just get this blonde dude popping out this ambulance talking about baby, watch your mouth. I'm like, who is this? Macy, who is this one? Not to be weird like that, but who is this rapping at me aggressively like that? And then you know what? The rest is just history. So
I know. When I see the two of you, I always think Namjoon first. Like I always do. Even though Shannon is dual biased, I always think of Namjoon first. I think that you are very both Namjoon forward.
I would say that I get like, I feel like I'm more like foam at the mouth for Namjoon, a lot more. So it's a lot more in people's faces. And then Jimin, I'm just like, they both make me feel very soft inside. But with Jimin, it's very like, it's a lot more like, I feel like it's a very strong emotional attachment to Jimin. Like Jimin is almost like the emotion. And then, not to say that either of them miss this, but for me, it's like emotion first for Jimin, just like this like love and affection. And then Namjoon, it's just feral, foaming at the mouth.
I think he would appreciate. He would appreciate that. I feel he doesn't get enough of that, so I feel like he would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also too, because when I first started out, I mean, Hobie was my bias wrecker for the same reason, just the dancing. When I first saw him dancing, mainly I think it was Boy Meets Evil was what got me to really start paying attention to him when I discovered that video. And now I just bias, you know, rap line and then like vocal line. It's just like all my bias records. But like, you know, Namjoon's just kind of like the leader in the bias line of rap line.
It is always funny because in my story, Jimin was my gateway bias. That's who brought me into BTS. But then I ended up falling in love with Hobie. And then it's been Hobie forevermore. Like, I can't. He stalks me in my sleep at this point. Like, he's my everything. Like, that man doesn't even know. Like, that I would literally just, like, I would sit there and do anything he asked at this point.
Yeah. Okay, Jimin was my gateway, and he has obviously stayed one of my biases. And then Namjoon came late-ish, actually. Like, not like, I want to say like it was further into 2020. I think it was around when I was like really, because I went like chronological, kind of starting with, I kind of went, you know, it was like Love Yourself forward, and then I went back, and then I kind of listened up to it. So I went on like a weird circular thing, and then I started doing the solo project. And as soon as I started delving into mono, that was like, oh, this man is for me. This man is perfection. This man is like speaking to my soul. I was like, yeah, absolutely, damn right. So yeah, it's just and I love the little dynamic together. So actually, it felt like it fit so nicely.
I feel like too, like when I'm thinking about when I got into BTS, and I think of this comeback, I think that this is my actual first official comeback. Like, because I don't look at like the anthology album as a comeback. For me, it was just like an album they released in between. Yes, there were new songs, but this for me is my actual official comeback because I came in the middle of the pandemic. Like I was at the end of like Butter, basically. I was in Butter, but like I had found Dynamite, and that was the song I had locked onto from their English stuff, even though Paul had been telling me about them. So this comeback is actually my first one. That's like has all the promo and stuff, which is wild to me to think about.
Yeah. And I guess thinking about it, like it kind of in a weird way, sort of, I don't know, like, because I did get like the fullness of the Mot 7 comeback in the run up to it, but obviously the unpredictable factor was the album comes out, you have the celebration, then it's like going to be the extenuation of the comeback, and then the tour, and then COVID hit. Like the week that we went into lockdown in the UK was the week I was readying to get my Mot 7 ticket. So I was like, it was fully in, and then it was just completely upended. So even though we got like Dynamite and Butter and like PTD and like you said, Proof and everything like that. And those were kind of comebacks. And then obviously all the solo projects, like the first, like the full, I want to say like unbridled, uninterrupted comeback has been this. And I think that's what feels so special to everyone, because it's them in their most free form, where they haven't got the worry of the pandemic, of things being cancelled, of having to rearrange plans, but also the looming military service of whatever we start, we're going to have to somehow cut off at some point because we have to go to the military. Well, they don't have that anymore. They can look forward to the next few years and lay down plans for the long term. And it's just, I'm so excited for them, and myself as well, and all of us. I'm just excited.
Yeah. So I feel like this is our comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it is the comeback, but also too, let's not forget it. I know it's during, looming military pandemic, all that. Let's also not forget B. I feel like a lot of people still forget B.
It was.
And I'm going to mention that when we start talking about the documentary on some things. But yeah.
No, and I wish I had been with B. Like, I came in right after all that like promo was done. The only thing that they were doing was, when I came in, was like Butter. Like, all I heard was Butter everywhere. And I'm like, but you're right. People do forget about B.
B came before Butter?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Butter was 2020. And then, B was, Butter was 2021. But you're right. But to be honest, the reason why I even missed out Butter is because not even Butter, B, too many Bs. I just because pandemic lockdown, I scrubbed a lot of 2020 from my brain. Like, it's still really hard for me to recall. Yeah. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. And it was, but actually I think when you look at B and the direction they took, that the self-produced direction and how they sort of did things a bit differently. I remember with B, with the comeback, that was the first time that we didn't get a comeback map. And that was something that we've been used to. I'd heard of being, we got it for Mot 7, we got it for the other rollouts of things that happened then. And then all of a sudden it felt like we were naked and afraid because we didn't have anything like that. And then look what we've got for Arirang. We had nothing either. So almost there's certain seeds that I think they were planting and experimenting with in B that I think we've seen come to fruition here, which is just, so I don't think you could have had one without the other.
But I will say too, what was different with B, I think it's because they couldn't do a lot of promotions, and because of lockdown, mm-hmm. They kind of with this new one right now with Arirang, they did a lot of behind the scene things. They were going on YouTube Live, which was their first, almost all the time. They were sharing behind the scene. That's when Hobie accidentally spoiled Disease.
Yeah.
When he was on YouTube Live, not realizing we could hear it. That man, I'm sorry. He just unintentionally sometimes just brings out the memes. Because I could clearly remember, I don't even have to watch it, but I can remember when one of the staff was knocking on his door profusely. And he had to go to the door. He just kept going when he was going back to the chair, he's like, oh shit. He's like, we're just going to pretend nothing happened, guys.
Yeah. It's God bless them. Yeah, they did. They tried. They experimented. I remember they did that. You had a lot of them doing crafts and and they all tried different. Yeah, we got some very iconic lives coming out of the pandemic, which was lovely, so lovely of them. But it was definitely feel very grateful for how much they did for us. But that was hilarious. Hobie it would be Hobie, wouldn't it? It would be him, and just I love that man to bits. He's just so great.
I know, me too. But yes, I do understand your point of people probably forget it because we all try to just erase that time.
Heck yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like I lost some lives. I feel like I never grew up from when we went into the pandemic, which I was 23. So I feel like I'm always stuck to be mentally 23.
Yeah. Yeah.
So enough of that, though. Let's get back to some exciting things. Let's talk about the comeback live that happened on March 21st. So the day after, this was actually live in Seoul right after the actual album dropped. And I cannot pronounce, I have not been studying my Korean in a while. So it was in the Gwanghwamun Square, which is actually a very busy area, very heavily populated with not only tourist sites, but just, I guess, I would think of it the Times Square, I was told, of New York. That's how that area is. Yes. So I do know they ran into some issues when it came to blocking off that whole area for this. The amount of people, I'm not sure if they were expecting to happen. And then regular people who don't really care about BTS, trying to maneuver around all that. So, I mean, at the end, I think it worked out. It seemed pretty civil. I heard that they did a pretty good job like cleaning up right afterwards. And thankfully, too, Army that was there didn't trash the place. So it made it easier for them. Yeah. So it all worked out, guys. It all worked out. I know some people are probably like, you don't understand or whatever. It's fine. I wasn't there.
Yeah. But there's always, I think, that side of things where like you have the people that aren't interested and they are like prioritizing, I've got to go to work. This is causing a massive traffic jam. This is really difficult. This is really inconvenient to me. But then I also think for the most part, and again, like I think the relationship of South Korea to BTS has changed a lot over the years because I think they are still very much a point of national pride. And so I think for the most part, people didn't mind it. And I think it is ultimately like, even when they were doing those big zoom out to like, where even when we wanted to see them maybe perform, those massive zoom outs to the whole square and just how much space they took up on these massive screens. I think it was just one of the things, it was like, same like a lot of things. It's like, yeah, you're inconvenienced for a few days, but look at the scale and the scope and the everything with this. Like, this is not your typical event. This is not just shutting something off to be inconvenient for something minor. This is a very significant event. And, you know, some people obviously might have been there being like, I don't care about BTS. This is really annoying for me. But I think for those that had some inkling of BTS's impact and how much this meant to a lot of people, hopefully they were just, I have seen people being like, it's fine, I'll get over it for a week. But no, it was so good.
Right. Also, Shannon had brought up a really good point about, you know, showing off the crowd and the buildings. Because if you first watch this, like if you watched it live, and I think the replay like right afterwards, it's very, very different than what's on Netflix now. I've watched this 3 times, and all 3 times I've watched this, it's been edited so much. This last time is a lot better when I watched it last night. So they do focus on the guys more, focus on the dances. They've added some like things that weren't there before. So yeah, because I know that was like a huge complaint from a lot of people like watching it, especially fans. It's like, why are you showing me the crowd's reaction and the building? What is it? It was like some type of hotel. It was like Korean and hotel. Yes. Like time. Now I know where that building is. Maybe I'll go visit if I have a chance.
Yeah, people have memed that as well. People have memed it to be like wherever you are, I'll be there. It's just, it was every time it zoomed out, I was like, there it is again.
Exactly.
But to be honest, I kind of didn't expect anything other than that, because I know from when I've done stuff in my job, like it is like, it's a part of like, do we have the shot set up in time? So, and you see it all the time, like they'd rather film the crowd and film like a wide shot, but they definitely have something to fill the space, while they're just like, a cameraman's just running around, and so it doesn't look a bit sloppy. So I think it's like, you know, it's a few seconds and it does take away from their performance, but also like it was nice that once they knew that they had that footage, that they put together something much nicer for rewatch value. But then I also think like I've got friends that I knew that didn't watch, that like they watched it not live, but they kind of watched that in between stream. And even though like for us, we wanted to watch them perform and we weren't really bothered about the crowd, for people outside of the fandom, they were like, I've got a few people said to me like, oh, when they panned out, it just reminded you this is insane and this is their impact. So actually, even like those wide shots, they did serve a purpose in a way, which I thought was, you know, silver linings and all. But yeah, I much prefer the cleaned up stream, because we get to see them just owning that stage and just being fine as hell.
Listen,
I think too that like it reminds me a lot of when they shoot festival footage of performances. They pan out a lot, because I know for Hobie Palooza, because I've watched that a million times, like the panning out, I think, is just a way for them to show like how big of a deal this is and the impact. And I think we're never going to get away from it. I think it's a good reminder though. Like, I don't like that they take a lot. I'm glad they edited it down. I watched it a few times, but I haven't watched it like recently, like the performance. And I would be curious to see how they did change it up with the performances, because I think too, with BTS specifically, they're dancers. And so people don't want to miss one of the best parts of the show, which is watching the 7 of them dance.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing, that if they're going to film more things like this, that they're going to have to remember that most K-pop groups, because I've seen this with numerous groups too, you got to remember they dance. And so you have to like film that a lot.
Yeah. I can remember that was one of the things that people were talking about around the same time as like the inconvenience of them setting up, was the fact that this was going to be on Netflix and you couldn't, you know, for people that were in South Korea or the people even internationally, you couldn't tune into live television for free, to watch to the broadcast of it, which kind of I know some people said that they didn't want to pay for a Netflix subscription just to watch it. That, okay, each to their own. But then I also think that there was the argument that could Netflix, being this big kind of, obviously Netflix has got offices all around the world and teams all around the world, but this was the first time of them not just doing a live cable, like a Korean music event, like you said, with the dancing and the whole big performance thing. But it was their first ever live music event they've ever done before, because that's what they're sort of spending a lot on at these live events, trying to get people tuning in. So I'm trying to compete with YouTube in that sense, who's always had a lot of the monopoly on going live, and now TikTok as well, obviously, for like live streaming. So it was an experiment for them. And I was interested to see actually, would they be able to focus in on the most important bits where it is so frenetic? There is so much going on a stage at once, and now those transitions from one member to another. And I think they actually did a really good job, because people were saying, I don't know if they can do a good job, because at the very least with the Korean broadcasters, they're so used to doing the music shows and filming, K-pop groups, that there was never any doubt that they would know how to set up the camera rigs and how to focus on. I remember when they've had performances in the US and also in the UK, they don't know how to move that camera fast enough to keep up with the members. And this actually, I think on the whole, did a really good job at giving you the full scale of the event, while also showing just how amazingly choreographed the whole thing was. And I think I've just heard from so many people that have never watched anything like that before, that tuned in just out of pure curiosity. They were like, that took a lot of planning. And particularly because it was out in the open, it's not like they could get up on that stage and rehearse. That would have spoiled everything. So that was taking a risk of being able to pull it off, having done it, behind closed doors. So I thought they just did a phenomenal effort. And yeah, props to Netflix. I think for the most part, I think I heard the stream held really strongly, and it went off without a hitch. So
not blip.
Bro, it was crystal clear, and I was so shocked. I kept expecting okay, when's it gonna crash? I'm also traumatized for when they did the free concert in Busan. I got mic drop and I got Run BTS, and I crashed. Yeah. I was spending so much finding links to watch this thing.
It was a microwave. They filmed it on. I swear to God.
It was like we knew there was going to be Run BTS choreo. We heard those first notes, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's there!" And I'm like,
No, I was so mad.
Yeah. But we all had that universal experience. So, it was a bonding experience for us of just being like, where's the stream? I need it. Yeah. And then I think it was mostly over by the time, but, and then straight after, as soon as they put that replay up, that's where we went.
Exactly. But yes, when you get a chance to rewatch it, Gita, there's a lot more things.
Can't wait then.
A lot less of the crowds and buildings. The voice and the music, it's also a lot clearer. I feel like I can hear BTS a lot more clear in this new version that they put out than the past two. And even with Body to Body, I put an example. The Korean women that they have singing the Arirang part, I actually hear them a lot more. I feel like it's a lot clearer. Good. Yes, because I felt like I could barely hear them the first time. So
yeah, obviously they did this little sound engineering touch up as well, which was very good of them.
Yes. So I am glad that they did that. But yes, speaking of that is actually the first song that they opened with, which was Body to Body, which again, just saw all of them. I had put a link. I always put links for references about the costume design. I was going to talk about it, but I didn't have enough time, and I can't access the link anymore. So if you're able to read the inspiration about their costumes, you can. I know it's based off, Korean history. Because even when I was looking at Taeyab, his shirt kind of looks like some type of armor. I think that's one of the inspirations. So yes, that's there. You can find the designer of their costumes. I don't know if either of you know a little bit more than I do of the inspiration of them.
I know it was based on certain archetypes. I don't know if it was heroic archetype. It definitely was quite, it was very much a commemoration of something that was very Korean at its. So I think I knew someone was a philosopher. I think June might have been the philosopher. And I think that Jimin might have been the poet. And I think Tae with his armor might have been the warrior. But they all kind of embodied certain kind of ideals, which I thought was just such a really cool way. Because it was so I think when you look at the costuming being so well done, I think it was so, you can kind of look at the way the costuming was done as a real reflection of the wider symbols and the themes of this album, which is rooted in Korean. There's that Korean root in it, but it's also modern, it's new, it's fresh, it's their interpretation of it. So just as you've got these ancient, these old Korean patterns and symbols and ways of cutting fabric, it's also just trendy and new. And that just honestly that's just BTS in a nutshell in my eye.
I loved all their costuming. And then the women, I know they put in with the red, which I thought was stunning.
I know that was a little controversial too, as far as like, you know, how much red there was being spread around, because like red is part of one of the political parties. So like they had to keep clearing up, like, this is just the theme of the album. We are not promoting any political side or party or anything like that, which I understand.
Reminded me of flowers, honestly. Like how they were dressed, they looked like flowers to me, like something beautiful. You know what I'm saying? That brought hope. Because when you were listening to them sing the choral, like how it sounded like a choir. It was so powerful. It wasn't, to me, it was just like so beautiful. It's like you were standing in a meadow almost, like listening to them sing this song that like means so much, like to their country. I don't know. I love that. I just love that opening. It was such a solid opening song.
Yeah. And I do wish they showed all 5 of them, because there's 5 women singing, but they only zoomed in, even in this new edit, like to the 3. But I feel like, if I remember correctly from K-pop Demon Hunters, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but when I was doing research on that, there's a significance of why there's 5 of them. Like in the movie, they kind of switch from like the 3 to 5. I just don't remember right now. And that's not the main topic. I just wish all the women were shown, as well as like the people behind them sitting around playing the Korean instruments. I thought that was, you know, cool too. You kind of have to like actually be paying attention to see them as well. But yes, so we opened with Body to Body, and then we moved on to Hooligan, which, as much as I've listened to this album, is starting to become like my top 3. Honestly, it might be number 1 at this point. The part they did change, though, for like if you watched it like live to this new version, they didn't play like the intro. If you've heard the song, they didn't play the intro music when Jin was walking by and put on the fucking mask. Remember when we watched it, Gina? Like it was silent when he first was walking through with the audience cheering. Now they actually have the music introing him. So that's where they edit it and then put on the mask. And then once you hear like the knives, that's when they like, I think they do a pan from above to Hobie and the dancer. So they did change that part.
Give the actor his due, okay? He was acting.
I remember the first time watching that, I was like, oh my God, Jin, what is he doing? What is he putting on? I was like, is that a mask?
So cute.
I will laugh every time I see him in that mask, because it's just like, oh, you're too innocent for this. Like in the eyes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do fear the fitting of that was not quite right, and just he's got a longer face. The costume design, it's got a longer face than that. It was just bless. I mean, it's just iconic. Everything, even if people call it a mistake or a blend, it's just iconic. And like you said, he's just there, just like, oh, and then like, them laughing afterwards, like behind the scenes about it, and then catching the little clips of him just like being like, guys, it wouldn't, like it's just like so endearing.
But if they continue doing that like throughout the tour, I kind of hope they switch out the members. Wouldn't that be funny? Like if they do that for the intro, I want each member doing something different.
No, I would love that. I think they should just now let it be a meme, just like they do, you know, with Jimin, making him a meme during a song. Like, please, I want that to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also in this performance, the way like Yoongi towards the end of his verse, like when he does this like face off when he's rapping to the dancer, listen, that does something to me. Okay, I had to replay that part too many times. I'm like, sir. Oh my God, I don't know why.
That song makes them a little feral, I think. Yeah. Like when they hear that music and the laughing, I feel like it just does something to them. They channel that energy, I swear.
Yeah, Hooligan, I just felt like in terms of like production and then just the things they played around with on that, like obviously you had the knives, then you had the like, like it just...
Oh, you did that really well, Shannon.
I know, right? She's been practicing.
Right?
Yeah, that was just them. I felt like that was just them goofing. I mean, as we know from the Spotify event, that was Jungkook's idea to do that, and then the other, I think they were just being like, "God damn it, Jungkook," because it's quite a lot to deal with. So, but they do it very well.
And now it's iconic. It's the most iconic part of that song. Like I wait for the laugh. I remember when I first heard that, I was like, "Ooh, maybe I'm the one who thought it was like sexy." I'm sorry. Listen.
No, definitely.
No, it is.
Yeah. And Hooligan's grown on me. Like it was one of those, I think a few people said this as well, that like at some point, like having headphones in, you're like, oh, is it a bit grating with kind of the knives? But honestly, like you listen enough and it just blends in. Like you don't, you just adjust to it. And I think that, yeah, I look forward to Hooligan every single time, which is really great because it's just, yeah. And some of the things they're saying in that track, I mean, yeah, speak, preach for sure.
I must listen. I like the knives at the first listen. I was just like, yes, slice me open. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it because it was different. And I think with a lot of things with this album, even if you're like, oh, I'm not like, you might have a personal preference like to not enjoy listening it over and over. But as with a lot of things, I will always love and respect that they're trying new things and that they're not keeping the same old. Like that was daring. It's the second song in. Like you said, you go from like this traditional Korean like Arirang Chan straight into that. And you're like, right, we're in it. Like we go from having like that softness and that kind of legacy to straight into the heavy part one, heavy hip hop part one. And it's just, yeah, it's just those tracks from Hooligan onwards lined up is a ride, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Exactly. Well, another I don't know if I should say controversial. Again, when I talk about like the actual album and the breakdown, me and Lala and our other special guests, we will discuss this. But we have 2.0, my favorite like choreography out of this whole entire thing. And like for the people who were talking about like, oh, this is lazy, they've really slacked off. I'm like, do you understand how technical this dance is? Like, I feel like I'm watching like on a ballerina, like, or a ballet type thing. Like it's technical where you have to make sure like your feet are pointed at a certain angle. You have to make sure your lines are straight. The way they're like hitting every single beat in certain parts of the song. Like y'all don't understand how like technical this is. If you're sloppy in any way and not hitting those sharp moves, it looks a mess.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing from like the choreo to actually what the track is saying. It is them flexing like that. I think is them being. I mean, from what I remember from like dissecting the lyrics, and again, like I just effectively, like someone pointed this out to me. I think it was when I watched the actual Jimmy Fallon performance of 2.0 when they were saying that at the beginning they're like dusting themselves off in the choreo. They're like stretching their muscles and getting ready. They're doing that like pretend like getting ready, and they launch into this very tight, like you're saying, it's like sharp, have to hit every beat kind of choreo. And like that is them being like unmatched with the lyric, them being like, I think there's a line where it's like, you've thought that you could vault over us, like, you know, you've had your fun, we're back now, we're here back to take what's ours. Like it's just like that is them 100% flaunting their skills and saying like, you had your shot at trying to usurp us, you failed. Now, you know, you ain't got a chance in hell now. So yeah.
I think it's funny for me because, listening to it is not as gripping to me. But when I saw the performance from this live, I really love it. I love it performed. I love watching the intricacies of their body movements because there are points when their legs and arms are moving specifically at some point. And it's like, what do you watch at that point? Because there's so much going on. But I think the choreo is some of the best that they've done in a while. Like, I think that to watch this performance is so good. Like, I look forward to seeing it live because they made me more excited for it. Yeah. Because they just move so easily. It's like water. It's just like, how do you get your body to listen to your brain like that and sing at the same time? I could never.
Yeah.
I can barely walk and talk half the time.
And it's like, and I think in that one, like the hip hop influence, because we knew that they were all having like hip hop dance lessons before. And like, I think you can see that really pay off. Like I said, that the tightness, the power of those movements, like the amount of energy that they're spending, just like making it look. And I remember like right when I was getting into like K-pop choreo and like learning about it, like they were saying like some of the hardest choreos to do in terms of like technicality that any professional dancer will tell you are the ones that look really easy, but the amount of control you need in your body to make it look effortless is extreme. Like you are pulling muscles trying to make it look like your body is like moving like butter. Like it's not really about dexterity, it's about power and control of your body and being so in touch of your body to be able to even like the slightest inch to make sure that you do that move just right is just they're just phenomenal. There have been some stellar Jimin fan cams that have come off of the 2.0 performance, like that have gone mega viral. People going, who is this? Like it's the Jimin effect, but it's also that choreo's effect. It's just so good.
Exactly. And I am curious, I forgot to mention this before we started. In this whole live thing, Namjoon is not dancing. He actually hurt himself. I don't know if it was the day before the album release. I know they released the announcement like the day the album came out. So it was either like the day before or a few days before. It was a day before.
Because when he was on Weavers, he said, yesterday I hurt myself. So that was the day before the album release.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, he's not dancing. And you'll see him in a boot as well. I'm curious to what he will look like with this choreography when he's able to dance again. Because my favorite part is like his like one of the last verses when he does the pop, pop, pop. And then like they kind of do like this weird spin thing to his pop. It's so satisfying to watch. I'm just curious of like where he is in that whole part when he actually is able to dance. Yeah, but that part, I replayed that part. I think I almost broke my TV. I'm not going to lie. It's so satisfying. I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, he's so, bless him and his little moon boot. I think he, just got a little bit too excited.
I think too.
And just, but I think, already he's done, because he did with Jimmy Fallon, he did do the swim choreo. So he didn't do 2.0 because I think that was, like we're saying, probably a little bit too much exertion on the body. But I mean, he got those body, he nailed those body rolls in swim. So he's getting better.
He is. He's getting better. And I also didn't realize, you see it more. I think it's because I've also seen fan cams and behind the scenes. I didn't realize for him, like he couldn't walk on the catwalk to go from the main stage to the mini stage. They had to take him like off the stage, kind of circle him around in order to get back and forth, which I felt so bad. Yeah. And his little two crutches.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, Namjoon. It's okay. Yeah. He seems to be getting better. So we'll see in the next 2 weeks when the actual tour starts, what he's able to do.
Yeah. I can just imagine him just like, as soon as any performance, he's like hoisting that leg up in bed. He's like heal. He's willing it to heal. He's like, I want to get back on it. I've got stuff to do. Like he's just like speeding along, just doing all he needs to do. Just manifesting a healed leg so that he's just good. And then he's probably going to get so excited and he's going to jump back into it and hurt himself again.
He better not. Don't do that, Shannon. Don't put that out in the universe. I need my man to be okay. Listen, we're trying to pray for less injuries during this tour as possible. We have dates all the way until 2027 right now.
True. I mean, maybe it'll be like a kind of an equal exchange. His body will stay intact, but he will break his phone, and I think his phone will be sacrificed, because that's just Namjoon for you. So we'll see how that can be a tally that I think we can keep. How many phones will Namjoon go through this?
Or pairs of glasses. Yes. Like pairs of sunglasses will he fling across the stage by accident?
Yeah.
I would rather him break or rip a costume than keep injuring his body.
Oh, I mean, he could rip a costume all day.
Okay, Gita.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Strategically, do it on purpose, Namjoon.
Oh, God. I guess don't go back too much into the roots, okay? Anyway, so we're going to move on. So after 2.0, they, stop, do a little introduction, basically mentioning that they're back after 4 years. I thought it was really sweet. Jin talked about, last time they performed was in Busan, and like he vividly remembers telling everyone to wait for them and that he was thankful, that you guys waited. They also talked about how it was an honor to perform in the square, especially due to its historical, significance, as well as the historical significance with the album. They're just very grateful and thankful for ARMY to be there and watching them because, they still have a fear that they've been gone so long that no one was going to show up for them. And then I guess to celebrate, moving on to the next song, they gave us Butter, which I'm sorry, Jimin, why did you lie to us saying that this was one of ARMY's favorites? Who are you talking to? Where are the ARMYs? I mean, I know they're out there. I'm not judging you if Butter is your favorite, but let's slow down now.
I mean, I do really like Butter. It's my favorite of the English trio, like by quite a stretch. But we've seen that a lot, and they've performed it a lot. So I think, in the same way, when they crop up, a lot of people joined the fandom. They're gonna do some of their most popular tracks. Yeah, I mean, the choreo is good. The choreo is smooth.
Oh, it is
smooth as butter on purpose. So
Yeah, me and Gina's favorite is Dynamite. And I personally, it's been long enough. I don't care. I pretend Permission to Dance doesn't exist. That is one song I will out loud say I do not like. I'm sorry.
I think as time's gone on, we've all felt in a safe enough environment to say, as have BTS.
Listen,
that track just was. It wasn't quite there.
If the file was lost, I wouldn't be sad. If the file got lost and it fell off of all the streaming, I wouldn't be sad.
Permission to Dance. What's that? Maybe it was just a nice, name they named their tour.
Is like our Paradise, okay? JK forgets Paradise exists, which is wild.
No, don't do that to Queen Paradise. Hold on now. Actually, no, I will not accept that.
Listen.
Comparing it to Paradise.
Listen.
I'm about to send you to a corner, Gina.
He forgot it existed. I want to forget.
Okay, but that's just because they don't remember things. They have minds of like goldfish. They have too many songs. But that's a good song to forget. Permission to Dance is not a good song to forget.
Yeah. I think Permission to Dance to me is an expression of just how polite and professional BTS are. Because Ed Sheeran came to them and said, "Hey guys, I wrote you a song." And they went, "Thanks, let's perform it." and they couldn't say no, just gentlemen through and through. However, yes, let her rest. I think.
But I will say, if they want to bring Butter with Megan Thee Stallion out more,
I'll take that.
I would be okay with that. They could play it and bring her out every so often, like to certain stops. If they want to put Butter in, please bring her.
Although I'm just going to put it out there, if Megan appears on any stage at any point in this, there's a track that I need them to perform.
I know,
and it's not Butter. It is Never Play.
I knew you were going to say that.
I need it.
Listen, it's going to be in Texas.
Yeah,
I want to be in Texas.
Yeah. Damn it, I should have went to Texas.
I think if she's going to show up anywhere, it's Texas.
It would be Texas. Because I think, didn't she show up at Cardi's in Texas?
Yeah, he did, I think.
Damn it, I should have went to Texas. Because I promise you, I cried when I wasn't there the weekend she appeared when they did Butter together. I know I got Coldplay. I'm not a big Coldplay fan. No hate to Chris Martin. I literally was like, I was so distraught that I missed her by a weekend.
My friend Anne, who I'm going to see go to MetLife with, she saw Megan. She was there the night Meg was there, and she said it was one of the most wild experiences. She said the crowd was insane. So I do feel like if they're going to perform with her, or, Namjoon is going to bring a sweet lady up to do the song they never got to do, I think it will be Texas.
Please, I will fight JK and Namjoon to get to Megan. Don't play with me. I will fight both of them to get to Megan. The way he pushed JK out the way to get to Megan, that is going to be me with Namjoon. I will body slam.
But no. That's the only version of Butter I will probably accept more now, is the one with Megan.
Yeah.
So yes, they did Butter, and then they also moved on to Mic Drop, which, was very satisfying. The fan chants are also louder in this new edit. You can hear them more. Oh. We also got the infamous Miane Oma that I feel like really started again when Hobie was doing his solo promotion. So that was great to see them bring back Mic Drop. Another mini break to chill, relax. Well, not really relax, but like to calm down, get a drink, ask how the audience is doing, thank them again, ask them if they were cold, all that. Then we move on to Aliens, which is also another one of my favorite songs. A very powerful song in its meaning. Love the dance for that, as far as like the background dancers and what they're doing.
I love the background dancers in that one.
That's probably going to embarrass you and your daughter, Gina, when we go see them in Baltimore. The way I'm going to be screaming the end of like, we land on it and stand on it.
I'll make sure Paul records you at that time, because he's my cameraman and he's going to be there. So I'll just tell him to film that for us.
Please focus on the guys doing that. But thanks for the offer. I don't need to be that embarrassed. But yes, and then after Alien, we go to Faya, which I know all of us were yelling at Namjoon to sit down, jumping on his one good foot. It's he like, sir,
sit still. I was screaming at the TV.
I was like,
it's Fire's Fire. It hypes you up. Like,
no, I love that song. That's my favorite from the first half of the album. That song is on repeat all the time.
Yeah. I don't say, well, I would say I blame Namjoon. I will hold him accountable for jumping about, but I don't blame him because, as I said, like that track, I don't think that I mean, let's put it this way. I ain't putting that track on in the library because I'm getting booted out. It's not going to work. I'm putting that on in the gym. I'm putting that on when I don't go to the club anymore. I'm old. But if I was to simulate, if I was to put my little disco ball on in my living room, pretend I was in the club, Fire would be on the playlist. So
it's a very club and like rave type song. So it makes a lot of sense. But yes, another mini break. Then we go into the title track Swim, where we also got, the dance for Swim for the first time. It's just kind of like the song. It's very calming, relaxing. I also saw online, apparently, I don't know, like the part where like V and Tay, like when they're like, I just want to dive in, it's part of the chorus. Apparently the movement they do is also sign language. I didn't know that. They've also been incorporating a lot of sign languages in their dances, I'm noticing.
That's cool. Maybe that is the one good thing that PTG gave us. The one.
Yes, I will say that is the sign language in the dance. Yeah, but they put it in here too.
Yeah, they like all got together for like a wash up after PTD. I was like, what can we learn from this experience? Like, well, they loved when we did sign language. Let's do that again. And that's a lovely, wholesome thing to take from PTD. Now let her rest.
Yeah, I saw that from a Korean creator. A deaf Korean creator.
They had that in Swim. That's actually beautiful.
Yeah. And the swim choreo was exactly how I think I envisioned. I remember I said it's not going to be energetic the way that 2.0 and like Hooligan is. It's going to be body rolls for days. It's going to be smooth. It's going to be moving in and out of sequence like waves. And it was beautiful. It was just very, very hypnotic. I kind of went a little bit back to Black Swan with that kind of choreo when I watched it. I was like, this is kind of the traditional ballet dance, just very, very, very pretty.
Yes, exactly.
Super technical. Again, body control is huge with those kinds of movements. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but I do feel like even if it is a slower track for a title track, I think the dancing makes it more technical and makes it more satisfying to watch. And not everybody can pull off the control that dance is. So,
yes,
100%. They make it look easy, like many, many things.
They do. So then after Swim, we get our little chill moments where we go into Like Animals. Very beautifully done is the way they sing that as well. And then Normal, which I know is one of Gina's favorite songs. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit or not.
It is my favorite song, but I like the way that they perform this because I wasn't sure, because you always, like, we heard from like Namjoon in the live and stuff, like how Hobie was helping them pick songs that they could perform and like move to. And I was like, he said that how, Hobie broke it down. Like he said, we can't move to this song or this. So I didn't know how they were going to go about Normal, because Normal is one of those songs too that like it has slow parts, but also fast. But I'm glad they didn't like perform it with a dance. I actually like that they kind of like took a moment to breathe and like just perform the song, because I think hearing like the vocal line do their like siren calls almost, like especially Jin and Normal, he has this point where it gets so vocal that I think it would have been drowned out by dance. So I think this is going to be one of those songs that I'm going to love to hear live, because and I'm glad that they put like Animals and Normal like they did in the album back to back in the performance, because I think those songs really shine lyrically, but also just vocally, because there isn't really heavy rapping either. It's more sung rap in some parts. And I think it's beautiful, but I think they want people hear the lyrics of those songs clearly, and Movement would not have let people hear the words. And I think it was perfect. I think it was the perfect way to perform them.
Yeah. It also means like I think it shines a light on like how they're going to perform, like how the endurance of like all of these tracks one by one. Like you can't have every single track be for this big like movement. They're going to exhaust themselves. So actually like being able to slow the pace down and like you say, like really focus in on them, how the heart they put into singing it, like the lyrics. That's the point of Normal, because normal gets deep. Normal gets quite heavy. There's heavy track as much as there's like fire, frenetic, really like showing people who's boss. There's also shedding some light on stuff, and you don't want the distraction of them jumping around on stage.
Right, exactly.
Yes. And then after normal is when we go into our final, talk, basically saying the goodbyes. They mentioned their favorite songs at the time. I'm sure that's changed since the album's been out. Like us, they also, got on Tay for sitting on the stool that was meant for Namjoon. That was pretty funny. They also cut out the part where, so they didn't cut out the part where Yoongi was doing his final, because I didn't realize until watching behind the scenes of like fan cams and stuff. I guess he was going to give his final speech in English, but then something happened with the prompt, so it cut off. So then he started talking in Korean, but then you also see like Jin, especially Jin, he was dying laughter. And like JK and Hobie and even Tay like just laughing, but they don't show them laughing anymore. And I was sad. So I know, but you do see we're like, now that I know it, I could tell where Yoongi was like, thank you for coming. Then he switches to Korean. I'm like, I don't think he was supposed to be doing that.
No, I mean, he jumped. He's a consummate professional. But yeah, that was funny. But we have the, we know what went down, It was just, that was, when you see the back of it, when you see like the screen just go blank all of a sudden, him just going, and then just the others being like, oh God. But I think it's like the kind of relief of like, better you than me. So,
even though we all know he's secretly fluid, like just stop playing with this, sir.
It's fine. He was caught off guard. Fluent in any other way, particularly when Namjoon is making the comment that they can't speak English. And he's like, I'll show you.
He tried in the Spotify event, especially when Namjoon was teasing him about the swim. That part always, I replay that a lot.
Look, he stood up like he was going to beat Namjoon's ass. And
exactly. He's like, you're not about to get me canceled on the internet. Yeah. No, like, I don't hate swim. I hate swimming. I don't like water.
Yeah. It's like if we weren't on stage and on camera, what would be up. So
exactly. Which never beating the cat allegations as well.
Yeah.
Him and Tong probably don't like taking baths. So it's fine. And then also we end out with a performance for Dynamite, which is another one of the very, hit songs of the English trio, and wrap it all together with Microcosmos, which I remember because like me and Gina and some others in the Discord server, like we were in the voice channel, but all watching it separately live. And like we all kind of thought they were going to perform Into the Sun. But then when we started hearing Microcosmos, we were like, that one meme of that one blonde girl was like, oh, that's what we all kind of do. Like Microcosmos. Okay. But it's just expected because they've been using that song for promotion for this whole thing. So I'm like, I'm not surprised. But
Into the Sun would have been such a better way to end.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it was just, I know why they're probably saving it for the tour end. I have a feeling that's going to be one of their ending songs. But like, I think I know, like you said, it was used as promo, Microcosmos, but I think Into the Sun would have been the better choice. Creatively, I think it would have been the better choice. But, I wasn't there.
I love Microcosmos. I don't get tired of it every time I hear it because it's just a very sentimental track. Like I like if that's what they use in the concert, I will be I'm gonna cry because it'd be the first time I would ever have heard it like live, and it's just And it was also the chance when they actually had everyone get their phones out and do things, like properly, like, talking about the lights and everyone being together. It's just, I don't know, it just makes you feel a bit warm and fuzzy inside. So I was happy with it. But I am going to be curious what, like, I think, and for Into the Sun, and also the tracks that we haven't seen live. So I think like Please, One More Night.
I have them written down. So the songs they didn't perform was Merry Go Round, They Don't Know About Us, One More Night, Please, and Into the Sun. So it was actually 5. I thought it was only 4 songs.
You missed one. What are they going to do with number 29? How are they going to perform that? That's what okay. The people want to know. What are they going to do for that?
It's going to be a midway point. I think it's going to be used in like a midway point to separate the types of songs they're going to do during the tour. Like, I think that it's going to be used similarly to what they did, switching the club play songs to the more introspective songs. I think they might integrate like the first half be like newer or something and then go back in time and then tie it in with something from the current album. So like I see it as they do some of the newer tracks, Gong goes off, then we do kind of the introspective stuff that like Animals and Normal, but then start doing some of the older stuff and then tie back in with like Into the Sun or something at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. There's number 29 is just, even in the album, but also generally, it's just such a tonal shift. It's just a complete pause of just everything goes silent. Yeah, it'd be really interesting how they incorporate that. You're right. But then I also, maybe it will just be like a random, the gong will just sound, and whatever they're doing, they just have to freeze. And it's just 1 minute, 30 second of just hold.
So like, is this our new, how like in Beyonce's tour, she has like in Renaissance, everybody, go mute. Look around, everybody go mute. Is that going to be our mute challenge of the gong? Is that what you're saying, Shannon?
Maybe.
I love that.
All right, y'all, calm down. It's time to meditate.
Yeah.
Drink water, breathe.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love that idea.
I think we're going to need it. I'm gonna sleep for 2 days after this concert. Like, all the energy expended, I could do it a minute 37 just to decrease stimulation. Thank you very much, Bangtan. Much appreciated.
Exactly. I am very curious though, like, are they gonna perform all the songs on this new album, or if there's gonna be like one or two they may omit? I'm not gonna lie. I would rather them play all the songs on the new album and just admit one of the old ones. It's fine. Like you guys keep saying, we're in a new era. Like I actually would take all 14 of these and replace it with something old.
I need one more night. I need it.
That would have been perfect to do.
As well. Yeah, it's so great. And I think, and even if it's more of a, we've had tracks like that before that are very very because like One More Night, I'm just, for people's reference, One More Night has been adopted by Brits because it is the most stereotypical, like British, like popular British kind of, like a lot of tracks like BTS put out are like, oh, this is for the Brits, this is for us, like this is the music you have in the background of Love Island, like this is for us. And One More Night has kind of taken, like, it's, so we're just like, we've just adopted One More Night. And so I'm just saying, if they need to perform that, and when they come to London and that for those 2 days, and I am in one of those nights, we're going to go crazy. That's our jam. So yeah.
Everyone's afraid that Please is going to get the Paradise treatment and be forgotten.
I don't think.
Listen, we will see in 2 weeks, but yes, that's pretty much our breakdown of the live, guys. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Like, honestly, go watch it first before you hear us talk about the documentary. Just saying. But yes, we are going to move on to another drop on Netflix only, BTS The Return. The documentary, that is the full name. God. Directed by Bao Nguyen. He also did a very interesting Teen Vogue article as well, kind of like talking about what his thought process was. I didn't know he approached the company back in 2021 to try to do something with BTS. But of course, with like military and everything, they couldn't. And then they reapproached them once they discharged. So it's a very interesting read. I do have the article listed in the description note. And he also talked about, too, in that the way it's set up and wanting to wait for Jin to join them. I don't remember how long they were in LA before Jin joined them.
I think it was a week and a half or so.
Was it only a week and a half?
It was a week and a half to 2 weeks, I think, that he wasn't with them.
Because see, they make it seem like they were there for a month and he only had a month.
I didn't think it was that long. Listen, time is soup at this point. I don't know. Like,
I know they went before him, and I'll talk about that too when we start actually talking about that. But I was like, I didn't think the time was, I mean, they did a lot apparently if it was only a week and a half or 2 weeks, because they told him, let me save that for when I get into this. But yes, we're going to start talking about the documentary. Warning, spoilers. If you haven't watched this yet, we're going to be talking about pretty much everything, discussing some very important things in this documentary. So if you don't care about spoilers, you can keep listening. If you do, go watch it and then listen to our thoughts. There's been a lot of discourse online, not only with this, but with the album itself that we will get into. But honestly, when you watch this documentary, it just feels like BTS pretty much like predicted in a weird way what the discourse online was going to be. It's very strange how they did that. And then we'll talk about a little bit more when I do part 2 and talk about the actual like album itself and like the discourse about the songs. But right now, we're just talking about the documentary. So once we, you play, it opens up. We start with the infamous beach live that the guys did when they were all in LA, recording the album and preparing for their long awaited 4-year comeback as a group of 7. And then I also remember when that live did happen, Many people also noticed like the camera crew that was following them in the background. So we were all like, oh, are we getting like behind the scene content? And it turned out to be Netflix the whole time, especially when it was announced that they're doing the documentary. And, you know, armies being some armies, and like there's a whole category we have for some of them of like the theory armies where like the camera crew was probably Netflix. And you know what, guys? You were right. It was indeed Netflix. I also love too, at the beginning of that, they kept the whole like that part that went viral online when they read the comment like, miss you, my husband, and Namjoon's like, miss you, my wife.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We went a bit crazy. I mean, it was all the emotions. It was them back together. It was the sunset. It was the beach. It was Namjoon. And then it was calling us their wives. They feed the Delulu. I mean, I know like we people cross boundaries into Delulu, and of course we don't condone those actions. However, Namjoon specifically, he has his moments where I'm like, come on, you should know what you're unleashing at this point. Yes, so
exactly. And also for people who may have not watched that live, because it goes back and forth to like, you know, black screen of like introduction of like a blah blah or about Nguyen film, Netflix, and like Hype. You know, like there's parts where you just like hear Jin screaming. I hope people know like he's not screaming of terror. Well, I mean, kind of. It's when like Tae kept hugging him and wouldn't stop hugging him, especially after I'm pretty sure he also went into the water with Jimin, right? They were both wet, soaking wet.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's screaming from that. He's fine, guys. He wasn't being tortured or anything. So after that, you know, we get like a little montage of BTS performing throughout the years from like Love Yourself era, Permission to Dance, and their last concert in Busan. And then we have Stephen Colbert, which I'm assuming this was around the time they were last on his show, which I'm assuming was around 2021, I think. I think that was the last time they were on that show. But anyway, we get a voiceover of him when he's doing like the introduction of the band. I have a direct quote where it says, international music phenomenon, one of the biggest groups on the planet. They had made Times Magazine's most influentialist, and they became the first group since the Beatles to have 3 albums go #1 in less than a year. So then after that, and then like, because there was also a part where like Trevor Noah, I think when they went to the Grammys, was talking about them and talking about like they're the biggest boy band. Cut to a black screen and a notice saying starting in 2022, BTS, the world's biggest musical group, paused everything at their peak to begin mandatory military service. And then we also get a bunch of like voiceovers of people talking about like their feelings during the enlistment, why they have to go. We also get some clips of Jin getting his hair shaved once again, and then like the members sending him off into the gate. It's over, Gina. It's fine. They're back.
I cried so hard. I was watching that with tears in my eyes. I was
know.
like, why are you traumatizing?
Yeah, war flashbacks, literally.
Oh God! Paul looked over and I was just like crying. He's like, "It's not here anymore." I'm like, "I know." Jin was the worst for me. I thought Hobie was going to be the worst to go in the. No, it was Jin. I was a mess.
It's because he was the first, and he went.
Right?
It was this. It was
more flashbacks. Stupid director. Anyway,
you have to get the sense of emotion of what this means for their return.
Yeah. You have to remember, Gina, like this is Netflix. This is for people that have not seen this stuff several times as part of like a self-torture device, which is what we had. Watching stuff over
I like pain, but not like that.
I mean, Gina, this is why we had to turn it into a joke of like the egg carton, of adding more to the egg carton. It's because true. Like, what else could we do? Like, if you don't laugh, you cry. And
you've never seen BTS stuff, people. This is freaking heart-shattering stuff, okay?
Yes, because we have to also remember this is not only for the fans, but this is also a way to showcase BTS to the general public. Which again, throughout this documentary that I will mention, I feel like a lot of fans forget that, but we will get into that because there's a lot of arguments on who is BTS trying to. Anyway, we're going to continue before I start getting into it. So yes, but after that, it gets happy, Gina, okay? Because we start getting clips of them being discharged. Remember the flowers, the happiness, them saluting being finally done. We got Namjoon with the saxophone. Yes, happy times. The only one we didn't get, though, is Yoongi, because, of course, his service was different. So for those who don't know how the military, I have to also talk of like people who don't know BTS that well or maybe chiming in for the first time. They have separate military services, active duty, and kind of like a civil in a way. That one's more for like men who aren't like physically qualified to do the active duty. So because Yoongi, you know, had his shoulder injury way back when, even though he had surgery for it, I guess they deemed like he wasn't really fit to do like the active service like the other guys did. So his was also a little bit longer. He came out a couple months after all the other members were finally discharged.
Mm-hmm.
But yes. And then we also have like a voiceover of one guy stating like the princes of pop are back and that BTS are back. I'm heading to the US to record for an album that is slated for spring 2026 release. So then we kind of spring forward time a little bit, switch over to the house that I'm assuming BTS were staying in when they were in LA for the 2 months that they were recording Arirang. You know, you kind of just see the members lounging around and it gives like a little introduction of them. You had Suga on his phone on the porch. You had Tae outside on the balcony. Namjoon watching TV, JK on his phone, Jimin eating, and then Hobie looked like he was about to go work out. In between as well, you kind of see like a POV of someone in a car on the highway of LA, which we later see is Jin, and that means he's on his way to join the members finally after being done with the solo tour, Run Soak Jin. And if you want to hear about the tour, me and Gina did an episode on that talking about seeing Jin in Tampa, Florida. Shameless plug. So go listen to that episode, guys. Also, I must not have been paying attention. I messaged Gina too when I was rewatching this. There's a lot of things apparently I had missed and I wasn't paying attention. I must have been on my phone. Because when Tae was on the balcony, why was he showing us all that for free? Why did we get the chest and the abs for free? I was like, sir?
Chapter 2 is not about taking our shirts off. Liar.
All men do is lie.
Lie.
So then when we get to the house, when Jin finally arrives, you know, he's greeted by Jimin and Hobie. And Namjoon actually gives him a bouquet of flowers, which I thought was very sweet. That touched Gina's heart as well.
Yes, did.
And you could also tell that he came back from his own tour because I didn't realize this, but my second watch throughout the whole documentary, he's mainly wearing his tour merch for clothes.
Famous merch. It's good stuff.
I mean, he had really great merch. Okay, I will say out of all the merch for like solo, good. Jin was my favorite.
Yeah, so good.
Yes, great quality, just like really cute, intricate designs. I really loved his merch.
And lots of sizes.
Yes, very size inclusive, especially, you know, for our bigger girlies. And we love that. So he also talks about how exhausted he was and how he just finished his last show in Amsterdam and immediately got on a flight to LA. Also, people need to remember for like the timelines. So this was in August of 2025. And this was before Jin decided to do an encore, like finale concert in Seoul. Yeah. So that was way before that, because we also, I don't know if we talked about it in the recording. The finale was very last minute.
It was last minute. It was. Yes. I don't even think he was planning on doing one.
He wasn't, because during the tour, he said he wasn't going to do one. And all of a sudden we get a notice, Run Soak Jin finale. We're like, what? And he said that too.
The finale was right before the guys left for LA, didn't they? Because it wasn't too long after the finale.
No, it was after. They were already back in Korea.
The encore was Halloween, wasn't it?
I was going to say it was around like October. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Why is time really like not functioning?
Time's an illusion when you're with
my catchphrase.
But yeah, and the amount of content that we had and the amount of things happening once they were back was just like bam, 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 bam. So we get events mixed up. I don't blame us at all, because I mean, imagine being BTS and actually living that life. It's just back and forth and back and forth. But yeah, I do remember that the encore was around Halloween, because I think I made a joke with my friends where he was like, hey guys, are we doing anything for Halloween? And they're like, oh no, I'm tired. And he was like, we can't not do something for Halloween. So he was just like, I know what we can do. And so he just went back on his word and just, prepared.
Men lie. Just continue to lie.
Yeah.
Yes, I also wanted to point out, I thought it was very funny where like Jin was pointing out how like big and buff everyone had gotten. And he's like, flex his arm. He's like, look, I was working out too. And then Jimin going to squeeze his bicep. He's like, wow, there's nothing there.
Oh my God. Jin's arm was huge to me.
I thought they were huge, but also the other guys were pretty big, because we have to remember Jin was like out for at least a year before the others. So we had time to like slim down. But yeah, no, I mean, like compared at the time to like Tae and Jungkook, like they were huge. Yeah. Okay. Muscle.
They were still beefcakes. Yeah. And we appreciate them.
Yep.
Yeah. So yes, we also move on with the scene to the members sitting out back. It consists of Namjoon, Jin, Hobie and Tae, and Jin is kind of like asking them how the progress is going. Namjoon and Yoongi are explaining how like they have a basic structure for the album, but like nothing is finalized. They haven't even picked a lead single. They don't know a concept, no like dances, and they've been stuck in a rut for about a week. So then after letting him know, and I also like how Tae was trying to lighten up the mood, like after them being stuck in a rut, he's like, well, at least the view was nice. Look at the city of LA and the sunset.
Yeah, let's put this in perspective, shall we, guys? Like we're in a mansion, we're in LA, our military service is done, and look at that view. And you know what? I agree with him. You know, always look on the bright side.
Exactly. I do appreciate him saying that because he's like, well, listen, we're out.
I was going to say, they could have been stuck in the military still. They could have been stuck in an office building in Korea. Like, at least they were out in the sunshine with the beach and the warm weather.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah, they could have locked them up in those high recording studios.
Yeah.
And locked on the outside. I was like, don't come out until you have an album. But
So
instead they were like, no, we'll get you a mansion in LA and we'll chill. I was like, yes, quite right.
Exactly. So after that, we also jump to a scene where Namjoon's in the car. I'm assuming they're heading to the studio. Starts talking. I was actually surprised Namjoon was talking a lot of English in this as well, like expressing his feelings and everything in English. But he starts talking about how BTS are blessed to still be around for as long as they have, 12 years. And, you know, just gives like a brief K-pop artist, you know, their lifespan as like, you know, being a group is very short-lived. Not even just a group, like, you know, there are some like K-pop idols who go off to do their own thing, but sometimes even that like is still short-lived, like he was saying. Now, I don't know, and this has to be a question for someone who has been in K-pop longer and you don't have a weird hatred towards BTS, because when I say this, it's going to wrong people the wrong way. I don't know if BTS truly is the longest K-pop group that's still active, meaning no members have left. They didn't do any type of member switches throughout their career at all. So they have the original lineup since the beginning. I know in their generation, 2013 of idols that debut, they are the only ones standing. But I also mean like no member changes, no members leaving. They haven't gone on like a really long, like 3 to 5 year hiatus of like not putting any group music out or like reforming the group later for like any type of reunion specials. So I don't know any other group like that for K-pop.
I mean, I don't have a full sense of like which ones there might be. The one that does come to mind, kind of circling back to when I talked about my origins with getting into BTS, is SHINee. So that, but obviously the conditions of that is it's not like a member left. It's unfortunately Junghyun did pass away. So I suppose when you do it on that basis, I suppose like Big Bang, but then Big Bang did take that long break. So yeah, in terms of having the continual, I mean, when you break down like BTS having done a hiatus, like I think if you exempt military service, which is obviously a lot, need to take that pause because it is mandatory. Outside of that, BTS's like hiatus or like breaks have been like only a couple months, you know, long. So yeah, they've been going like, I think it is probably accurate that in terms of from start to finish, like, and just continual flow, excluding military. I think he would be right on that. Because all the other like second gen groups that I know of that might predate them, they have been disbanded and created other spin-off groups, or they have had members leave and members join.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna think that sounds pretty accurate, whether people want to accept that or not. Like, it's true. And then he also talks about how he was talking with their chairman, Bong PD. You know, they don't really have like a framework or reference for them to really go off based off their careers because of that situation. There's a lot of like experimenting going on and like trying to find out what really makes them special and like what makes them work as a group. And I know at first when I was watching this, I kind of thought Namjoon was talking about when he had said like what makes them special, what makes them work. I thought he was talking about like the process of like an album and like how they work together as a group for the album. But then I kind of realized second watch, he meant like BTS as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah. So then we get into like a kind of small montage of BTS in the studio, either working on the music or I put goofing around, but like it was probably just like being distracted because they didn't know what to really do. I also love, if people, you know, don't know this, the music they were playing during that montage was from their first Japanese album called Wake Up, and it's the intro called Wake Up. I actually used that as my alarm clock when I first got into BTS. It's a great way to wake up, guys, because they're screaming at you to wake up. So it's perfect. But during this, also, Namjoon talks about how once they're done with LA, they're going to go back to Korea. And when they do, that's when they're going to do like all the final mixing for the songs they choose. as well as, like everything else that comes with the album, like the photos to go along with the theming and all that for the long-awaited comeback, and how they promised, the fans that they would come back, which is what they're doing. They also discuss how time feels like it's running out because they only had 2 weeks left in LA at that time. And it felt like they weren't going anywhere with the progress. And we see that during the recording session. I want to shout out my man, P-Dog. I really enjoyed, that scene that we got with him working with Jimin. I love P-Dog, okay? I know nothing about this man. I don't need to know anything, but like a lot of my favorite songs, he's always in the credits. Yeah. So if I see him in the credits, I know it's going to be a banger. He's been with them literally since the beginning. So obviously they trust his creative direction that they, he leads them to and all that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I saw someone say on Twitter, they were like, there's a lot of very big name producers in here, but like, let's not forget, like P-Dog's, he's the OG. He is like, and he's still just like so many years on. He's just their relationship, you can tell is just so strong. Like he is able to just really he gives direction for what he needs them to do and they get it so well. Like that dream team. I love seeing P-Dog every time. I love seeing any of like the OG, big hit team that have been with them from the beginning, because you just feel like they're so much more comfortable and there's so much more, just so much more copacetic with that team. But yeah, shout out to P-Dog. He's fabulous.
Shout out to P-Dog. And we also do like get a chance to like see them working on songs that like didn't make the album as well. Like there's a point where I think Tay's in the recording booth. Like you obviously can hear the song and we don't know what song it is because it didn't make it the album. But I thought that was interesting and nice too, that we got to also be introduced at songs that didn't make the cut. You also have to wonder like, what those songs would have sounded like if they chosen them and like made the final cut and all that. So very interesting. Or like maybe why they didn't choose them as well. Yeah. I also do want to mention something briefly because I do remember, I think Shannon had read this too. There was a Vulture article that had came out of like someone who had watched the documentary beforehand and was like kind of giving a sneak peek of what to expect. And that article, now watching the documentary, was very misleading because there was a point where people kind of took something and spin it where at the beginning when they're in the studio, Jin talked about like how exhausted he was and like was questioning why he was there. And like Tay was agreeing with him. And now that I've seen the scene, it obviously meant that he was exhausted because they were sitting there listening to music all day. And Tay was obviously trying to cheer him up. Like, I don't know, obviously, because there's been edits. Like, I don't know if like Jin had time to record that day or because they're all there. Like, he's just listening to like the producers and like Yoongi and all them just trying to mix and match music to the point where like they're kind of going insane from hearing the same notes over and over and over. Like, there's just so many possibilities. We don't know what happened that day, but like to make it seem like, he was tired of like questioning why he was there as far as like what's his part as a member. Like, okay, that's not what happened.
It's very telling, isn't it, when you decontextualize something and you like break it down into like, well, this is what happened and this is what people said. Like, it's actually when you put it in context, because as soon as you put it into context of that scene, I was immediately reminded of what it's like when you're on a film set, when you're on anything that may or may not need your participation. It is like hurry up and wait. You can be stuck around for hours and hours in case you're needed. And I think like at the stage that they were at with the album, they'd already laid down a few things. And like we said, Jin came later because of the tour. So it may have been, we might need you here to lay down some vocals, but we might also not need you. And so, yeah, you are sat around for a long time just in case you're needed. And it's a very normal thing. And you're just like, I'm a bit bored, I'm a bit tired, I'd rather be asleep right now, but I get it. It's part of the process. But yeah, I agree. That Vulture article, which I'm sure we'll come on to with a couple of the other things the Vulture article did that I think was a little bit disingenuous of them. It definitely set up a bit more concern than I think was necessary as we get into the documentary.
Yeah. So yes, after that, we switch over to a scene where they're eating dinner. I'm assuming Yoongi already went to bed because he left. So he either went out to do something or he went to bed. I'm pretty sure he went to bed. And Namjoon came down later, which I think was later revealed he was coming down to eat dinner later because he was so, stuck either in his room or somewhere trying to write these lyrics. We know how he gets. If you've ever watched any other content of them, a great example of that is like Bon Voyage season 4, when he was, in the trailer trying to write the lyrics and they had to drag him out and give him a tiny potato to peel to calm his nerves, to like make his mind stop racing. So that's just a great example of how he gets so like focused on something, but also drives his brain crazy.
Yeah. Tiny potato, June. We love you.
We do. We love you so much. Taehyung mentions that they're really trying to like challenge themselves with this album, with being like experimental, trying something new and trying to evolve as well. But then, he also does question if they've changed musically. You have Namjoon and Jungkook like reassure him. They both kind of state like, this album already sounds like very different than anything they put out in their past music. J-Hope also states that he doesn't feel under pressure or stress, but what he is stressed about is like wanting to make music freely, but at the same time feeling like all this systematic and like working in a factory. I will come back to that. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, something that Hobie had mentioned, because this goes into one of the discussions we will have later when they're talking to one of the executives that we all know by name, or at least the fans do. Jimin states that it's because they've been out of the game for so long due to the military. Also due to the military, like, again, a lot of things happen oddly in like I want to say 2 years when they're officially enlisted. But if you think about it, it didn't really put out any new music since 2022, aside from Take Two. But that was recorded like a lot earlier than when it was released. So way before they left. Namjoon talks about how he feels pressured. And then like Jimin quotes of things they've probably seen online or heard people saying like BTS is not as good as expected. They're over, I guess. And he wants to hear like, now, I don't know if this is due to translation, because like when I hear this phrase, like is built different, that means something differently in context. But he said he wants to hear people say BTS is built different. So I'm assuming in Korean, that means it's a good thing. But then Jin kind of like ends that conversation stating like, as long as like they're happy and the fans are happy with the final results, that's kind of all he cares about.
I think we're so used to them just being happily in the studio. And this is like one of the first times too, we're really seeing like them talk about the pressures that they're feeling, especially coming out of the military. Like we have all our expectations as ARMY. We're excited. We have thoughts and feelings that we were putting out into the universe. And we're well aware that they know what we're feeling because some of them are chronically online and they were probably aware too. So that was probably feeding a lot into their own anxieties. But I think too, Jin's comment of, as long as the fans are happy and we're happy, that's all that matters. I think that's the main thing that we as ARMY also want. We want them happy, but we want to be happy too. And I think that's the one thing that they have to keep remembering throughout, like even the tour and stuff. As long as they're feeling happy and healthy, and ARMY is too, I think that's what's going to matter the most. Because at the end of the day, like there is always going to be critics and things like that want to make their comments known. But it is about just their happiness at this point, like too, like they're the ones performing. And I love Jin's philosophy though. Like his philosophy has always been one that he does bring the group some positivity in his own way. Because there are a lot of members, like as we just reading these quotes, that are very real in their thoughts and some more negative than others. And I guess in my mind, I always knew that was a reality, that some of them were more jaded in some ways than others, especially those that are the more producer oriented, like Rap Line. What they're saying to me is not shocking. But Vocal Line, to have some of those doubts is kind of surprising in a way, because they seem to be the members that like are shiny, like they're like the shiny. And having Tae, even say like he has these doubts, it kind of like made me sad, because I'm like, wow, like the system really is doing its thing. And sometimes I can see why groups don't want to continue. Like they're battling things of a reality of artists that have been there for longer. So I think it was just like an important thing to show, at least for my eyes anyways.
So then we're going to move on. We get another, jump cut to a scene. They're in a theater room and it seems like they're going over like old clips of them like performing, dance practices, behind the scene footage. And it literally goes like all the way down to debut. And I wonder what that's like for them. Like, I bet it's such an odd feeling to like literally have all this footage of like watching you grow up. Cause like some people, you keep that privately, but like you had millions of people watching you literally grow up. So I also just wonder like what comes to their mind when they're watching that footage of like maybe certain memories that they have that like we will never know about. So that was just what I was thinking about when I watched that. It was also funny because Namjoon started playing that saxophone, and I guess he started playing one of the military songs. They all started groaning and Jungkook screaming, "I'm triggered!" So if you think you're triggered, Gina, imagine for them.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I'm like, oh, don't do that to them.
Which to say, Namjoon, you said you were going to play us music on the saxophone. Where is that? He said, I'll play for you guys, and he never did. So I need those songs, Namjoon.
I mean, we might get a little songwriting, the song breakdown, and still do that live if he does that. And if there's a little sax in the corner, then we know what we got to do in the comments. Just crank it out and give us Careless Whisper, Namjoon.
That's right.
Exactly. But don't hold on to that wish too long because, you know, he just be saying things sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also during the montage of like them watching the last concert, we also get like a voiceover of like the Festa dinner, which many people see in many different ways. Also have an episode of that back in 2022. I did with Macy. We talked about Proof in the Festa dinner. Go listen to that, guys. But he was basically talking about when he first started to make music, he wanted to say something to the world. But the K-pop system, with its constant output of content, he started losing sense of who they are as a team and how, you know, he felt guilty even admitting that out loud. So I do remember that distinctly. You know, they also saw the part where like he was crying, which we rarely see that man cry. So if he was crying, you know, it was serious.
And Yoongi crying because he was crying. Like that was why the Festa dinner, that whole, you want to talk about trauma? I know, like, you know, Jin getting his head shaved, but that was, I have not watched that probably since 2022, and it was.
I haven't. In the words of JK, I'm triggered again. That was another point where I was like bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah. Let me just go on my phone and mute it and just let it just.
I can't even look at him crying. Like if I see that man, his scrunched up little face, I just lose my shit.
Yeah, yeah. And also be so guilty as he was saying it that he's like, I'm so sorry, but I just don't have, like, my well is dry. And I'm just like, oh, yes.
And then Hobie was drunk crying. Listen, it was a whole mess, that dinner.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. And again, like I told you at the beginning, we're past that now. It's a brand new day, okay? The sun is finally bright.
It's true.
So we see J-Hope heading to the studio in another car. There's a lot of car shots, I realized, in this. So he talks about how Jimin had made a comment that night about why do they feel like I can't say this word, inexplicable, yes, pang in their heart every time they talk about BTS. Hobie stated that the tenderness, like deep longing and like the moments that move their hearts, because they all share that together, is probably honestly why the reason they're still a team. And then we cut to Yoongi passing by a theater where they held their first concert in LA during the filming of American Hustle Life about 11 years ago. And then he also talked about how music is a way to document who he is in that phase of his life. He also talked about how he wished they had a clear theme for this album. Now, before I go on, Shannon, have you ever watched American Hustle Life, like from beginning to end, and not want to watch it because of the, you know, beginning scenes of like the kidnapping, which I know people have problems with, or just like, it is cringe. Like, come on, let's be honest, it is. But have you watched it?
I've seen various clips put together, but I definitely haven't watched like every episode from start to finish. And I know how impactful it was for their journey. So I have seen like those kind of necessary clips. But yeah, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces. But yeah, it was definitely interesting watching them go back and be in front of the theatre. The one clip I have seen over and over was the ones of them handing flyers out to their performance, to their very first concert. So yeah. So it's just really, a lot of nostalgia in there. But yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I actually showed the whole thing to Gina.
Yeah.
And I know I've changed her perspective on that when I actually showed her the whole thing.
Watching the whole thing, I think, again, it was a context thing. You see the clips that you see, and it paints it in one way. But when you actually watch the whole thing, it really does put into perspective, like, their roots, like where they learned to appreciate the things that they appreciate. And yes, there are cringe things, but I do think that like when it comes down to their work ethic and their understanding, I do think it plays a really big part and of their journey. And it being in America, again, it was a learning experience for them. They had to feel some discomfort and adapt. And I think it was a worthwhile watch. But it is a show of its time. Like, things have obviously changed now and things like that. But I think too, who they met from like the hip hop roots too was important. Like, there were actually some nuggets of wisdom that artists gave to them that I think stuck with them. Yeah. And I love that. I did love that.
Yeah.
It was worth it for me.
Yeah, I think I will watch it. Like, it's not like I have an aversion to watch it because I think it's cringe. Like you said, I've heard it spoken about many times. I think the one takeaway that I know from it is the fact that they, and again, like you said, like the whole show was, it's pretty experimental because this is a time when Big Hit was not hype. Big Hit did not have the funding. It's reflected in the way that it's filmed and the whole operation behind it. It is handheld cameras and a small team like getting together for it. And I think like it's like representative, I think, of, it's almost like managing, like where I look back on it is like, I think it really managed like that early BTS's expectations, because when you think about what the landscape was like back then when Big Hit was in comparison to the original big three labels, there were groups that were debuting under those big three labels that had a lot more freedom and a lot more ways to get themselves elevated to the top and a lot more opportunities. Whereas I think really what they tried to work on with BTS in those early days was humbling them and letting them know that this is going to be really hard graft. This is not going to be, you're not with a label that can get you in at your debut on the TV show. We can't get that for you, but what we can do is we can drop you in a circumstance. We can get people to give you, some advice and give you their time and just let you decide how much energy and effort you put into this. And I think, like early BTS, they were very hungry, but I think they also had there was some like, hard hitting realities there. I think, but I think going into it, they knew, but it definitely, I think there was no escaping, like they were in for a very hard road. And I think that those foundations and being set up for that is what gave them the endurance to overcome so many barriers that got them to where they are now. I think if they didn't have that at the beginning, to get that fire lit in them, I don't know if like the many challenges they faced in the years that followed, if they would have been so determined and so like unified as a group to go just another one, just to knock down in front of us.
And they were young, and it showed. And I thought it was good for them though, because some of the artists really did lay into them and say, no, that's not gonna work. Like, if you want to extend your life in this music business, you really have to like wise up in some ways. And I like that because it is a tough business. Music and entertainment is hard. And I don't know. I think you should give it a watch. I would love to hear your perspective.
And I'm going to say something too, not to make both of y'all uncomfortable, but I have to say it because it actually goes into the next little segment. It's just also funny, and I just don't know if it's because of the way time has progressed. American Hustle life, for me, especially as a Black person, it really showed, like, if they were like, okay, if you're going to do this hip hop thing, actually learn it from the people hip hop came from.
Yes.
Learn it from the Black people that created it. They actually do like a small like history, like a game history of like certain events that happen in hip hop that it teaches them, not just like, oh, this is hip hop and this is hip hop dance. Like, no, actually explaining to them the history, the people behind it, giving them all that context. Back when Big Hit wasn't afraid to show that BTS and Black people have a connection, because this goes into the very controversial Arirang animation that had came out, because we get a scene where, because they didn't have a theme, they were just completely stuck of like what they wanted to present, especially for the comeback. A woman that works there, I forgot, I think they show her title. Her name is, you think it's Byung Lee, how you pronounce it? I'm not really sure. But they get them to the studio in LA and she introduces them the story of Arirang, talking about how a group of Korean. Now, I don't know if they were all men, because if you look at the picture, and I haven't deep dive into the articles that I have for when we talk about the album, because I'm going to bring this up again when I actually talk about the album with Lala and our other guests as well, just for us being, Black and people of color. But I don't think they were all men because it looks like in the picture there was a woman behind them. They say men, but I don't know if they were all men. But they're just Korean people that, you know, from the Jones Dynasty back in 1896 came to America, received an education. It's kind of all she really talks about. Obviously talks about like the history of like Arirang for what it does for Korean people, what it means to them, and that they recorded it in, you know, America, as well as like the woman who helped them record it. But it's also like, I guess as an American, sometimes I think it's just our country where like we don't get like the full story of like a lot of things on our history. And that's just because, you know, no one wants to like go into depth of like how terrible slavery was. I don't know at this point if it would change anything or not, but they try to hide a lot from us for that specific reason, to not make changes. But I guess watching them, I also didn't realize, like with Arirang, like they didn't know that. They were generally surprised because when she was talking about the story, like Namjoon had asked the question when she's like, you know what song this is? And he's like, what song is it? And then Jimin brought up Arirang. Like they didn't know that history behind, you know, the story and the creation of it being recorded for the first time. So I just thought that was very interesting. And now it kind of shows into that animation. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I get this album is about them, but it's also one of those things where it's like, you still could have at least told them the history, because there's a significance of why those Korean men were able to get to America. Like, they would not have been accepted anywhere else if it was not for Howard, especially being a university that accepted not only freed slaves and Black people, but opened their doors to other races, especially down that time. That was like, what I think someone said 7 years after slavery officially got abolished, heading into Jim Crow era, where like those Korean men would have been looked at as, you know, colored. We call them colored back then. So it's Black people, other derogatory names for us, and colored, way before civil rights movement that didn't happen until 1964. So.
And I think that's telling too, that even their country is not educating people. You know what I'm saying? Like in if they didn't even know the history of Arirang, then I don't know. It's just other countries also have education gaps, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak from the context of someone who obviously is in the US. I know about the history of Howard because I've watched over the years like various documentaries that have like mentioned Howard, but I think it is one of those things that like it's absolutely a part of the original like Arirang 7 story, but it's one of those details that I think definitely has a lot of impact within an American context. And so I can kind of see how it wasn't like a point of like, oh, and to top it off, like it was at Howard University where like, you know, it was, you know, it was one of the only universities that accepted people that were, you know, not white. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I know that the conversation is still ongoing about the animation. And I know a lot of people, particularly, you know, like Black armies are still feeling like the hurt from feeling that exclusion. I think like the way that I sort of reflect on it, and, you know, the weight of my opinion is obviously different as a white woman that not personally affected by that. But, you know, BTS are not the team that created that animation. They aren't the ones who were responsible for putting it out. And so their lack of education on that specific personal thing, like ultimately I put the accountability at the door of the team that put that together, is just being able to do just a little bit of research, and just a small touch up to that would have made everyone happy. And it is just a crying shame that didn't happen in that sense. But I think also like a lot of people, I think, can make the assumption that like, I think what was interesting is the fact that watching that the Arirang like concept didn't come from BTS. It was pitched to them by the creative team. And I think that's something that people can sometimes assume with BTS, is because they're so hands-on with their work that every kind of idea comes from them. But actually, like, no, like they were struggling. They didn't really know like what to match it. And the idea of, you know, joining up this idea of you know, Korean legacy and, you know, a song that represents like longing and that has this like real like deep untranslatable Korean element to it. It didn't necessarily come from them. You could tell, I think they were really like into it and really enthusiastic, and that was what helped things come together. But yeah, the original idea, it was a corporate business pitch from a creative team at Hype. And I think that is the reality of how a lot of this stuff gets made. So as with a lot of things, this documentary, I think it was a really good insight for both armies and completely new fans to understand how this album came to be.
Yeah, I mean, I had other issues with that animation too, because not only just like the historical part of it with like when it comes to America and Black people, and of course there's going to be people telling me like your history is not the only history. I know that, but I also feel like it discredits BTS's legacy that they were trying to portray or try to highlight so much with this theme, because even in the animation, not only the inaccuracy of like Howard and like the students that actually went there and the representation of them, it discredits his BTS. To me, it discredits their hard work because they weren't super popular like right out the gate, because it shows them on the stage like performing Wings in 2013. I'm like, no, like Shannon had just mentioned when we were talking about American Hustle Life, like the company was not in good standing. Like, and if you also watch their documentary on Disney Plus, they talked about after, because, you know, when they were doing American Hustle Life, that's when they were recording Dark and Wild, and how they had to make a pivot because the album sales were so bad. And this was way before like they did a bigger push outside of Korea and into the West. Obviously, I'm sure there's some people like foreigners who are into K-pop listening to them, but like it's not the way that it is now. And it just doesn't show that connection of like the collaboration that we see heavily in this album with like outside producers and everything, and the people that help them, like with American Hustle Life, get them to where they are now. That's just one thing I wish I would have seen that more, because I did have like an expectation differently of this documentary as a whole. Like I was expecting to see more of a breakdown of like how they picked each song or like the recording of each song. I would have loved to seen like, again, working with Black people. Our guests will tell us more of like the actual Black people credited on this album, but it's like you had one of the most respected hip hop producers on there, Mike Wilmade. I would have loved to have seen, I know it's probably like a company thing, they reached out to him, but I would have loved to see like the interactions if he was there recording with you guys, like how that came to be, how that collaboration came to be. I did see there was one scene where I guess there was, one Black guy in the studio helping them guide, but I just would have liked to see that a little bit more, kind of like the scene that we saw with P Dog and Jimin, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with that. I also, and we'll talk a little bit, even seeing Namjoon with the lyricist that he was working with, I loved that. I loved their conversation. And I was like, I really wish that there would have been more sessions like that, where it showed them working with these people and trying to form some kind of like, correlations with their own lives. Because obviously he was struggling with that and she was helping. I was like, I want more of that, because I think those collaborative sessions are what make BTS who they are. Because it, like you said, it started with American Hustle Life and it has just continued. And I think showing that would have been so much better. But,
So, yeah. I mean, that's the only thing. But we can go ahead and move on. Like I said, I'll talk more about the animation again when we talk about the album. But, we're back into the studio after they all decided to go along with the theme for Arirang. They're in like another session, basically. I don't know if this is the same woman who pitched it to him. I hear her voice, but I don't like see her face. So they didn't show her name again. So I'm assuming it's her asking them like how the progress is going, how they did choose 14 songs, and that at the time Body to Body is confirmed to actually be on the album. And the company wants Arirang like the actual one of the recordings. It's not like the original recording. It's like one of the renditions of it. Where there's women singing, but they want a sample of that song into, one of the songs. And they chose Body to Body to do it. Normal has also been confirmed. And they can start writing lyrics on that, which Gina mentioned a little bit, but we'll get into a little bit later. And then more discourse. So kind of like what Shannon was talking about with the companies, this is when Yoongi had actually brought up how they want to add more Korean lyrics into the songs, especially on the rap verses. And then Namjoon does add that it would be appropriate, more like add an extra sense of authenticity because of the theming of the album and naming it Arirang. So then we get introduced to Nicole Kim. I had mentioned earlier, a lot of armies already know her because she used to work on their A&R team and I think other things as well. But now she is a VP of Big Hit. I mean, kudos. I'm going to always cheer, especially in a country like Korea, knowing how they treat women. Any woman in a position like that, I'm going to cheer you on, as long as you are not like a woman who shall not be named that gave a lot of drama to HYBE during BTS's military service.
One of these is not like the other.
Exactly. But she mentions that she understands like the need for authenticity and how it's important. But if they want the album to go global, they need to try to inquire as much English as possible. And then Namjoon brings up like they're running out of time and then don't really have time to do things like get the pronunciation right in English, especially since it's not their native tongue. But then we see them like working on like Alien and like getting corrected with the pronunciations of like English. Because that seems like that was something they're very worried about, which I understand. That's not their native tongue. I'm sure with the military, they didn't really have time to like practice, like how we said we were going to practice Korean. Did I do that? No, I tried. I go back and forth, but it's like, listen, life gets in the way. And I'm sure it was like that for them. But then they also, not only the pronunciation, worried about like having more mature lyric into their songs. And of course, is one of the things that caused a lot of online discourse, especially towards Nicole. And I don't want to sound like I'm like a company stan, because anything you say that's against BTS, people label you a company stan. But I understand where she comes from on a business sense. This goes back to when I was talking about what Hobie had mentioned about he feels stressed because he wants to make the music freely. But unfortunately, just the way we've business and like monetize like the arts, just in general, there are certain games you have to play. Like, unfortunately, we have to be realistic. There's a reason why BTS had pivoted, like I'd mentioned earlier, from when they were doing hip hop, from like School Love Affair, Dark and Wild, their debut, to when we got Most Beautiful Moment in Life. I don't know if they would be where they are if they didn't make that switch. It did, unfortunately, probably have to come down, not only of things they want to express, like at the time of them like growing up and all that, but we also do have to think it probably was because of a marketing strategy to like make sure they didn't fail as a group, to make sure they weren't one of those people where they just had to fill out their 7-year contract, or a member maybe had left before the 7 years ended and then they disbanded. Again, most people don't want to admit English is technically like the universal language, especially when it comes to business. It's just a sad reality. I know people are comparing a lot to like Bad Bunny and Spanish. Now, I got a wake up call when I had talked to Shannon one time in the Discord server, because I didn't know Bad Bunny isn't as popular in like the UK like he is in the US. We have a lot more Spanish people in the US. Like, it's literally like, I'm pretty sure the second language. You know, we have people telling you that it's not. I'm pretty sure it's the second most spoken language behind English. So that makes sense for him. I'm sure in like other like Spanish speaking, like maybe Europe countries as well, or ones that like, you know, enjoy the Latin like music. But still, I'm not sure if it's really fair to compare like someone like Bad Bunny, who has a better chance of like making it worldwide because he does have the advantage of being American. Yes, he's Puerto Rican, but Puerto Rico is, you know, a territory, I hate saying that word, under America, compared to BTS, who are from a small country like Korea. Not so much now, but back then when they were starting out, that was just the reality of it. So it's like more people are willing to listen to a song that may be like in Spanish than they are in like in Korean, unless you're like into like those Asian language, like, you know, how people, and like I'm included in that, like use like anime as a way to kind of like gateway into like K-pop, or like vice versa, things like that. So like I was already used to like consuming some type of like, you know, Asian entertainment. But I understand, you know, Namjoon's point as well, as well as the others. Like, they are Korean, they're more comfortable in Korea. You don't want to get into the way of their creative process, because obviously they still want to, the artists that they want to stay true to themselves and the work that they put out. But at the end of the day, to get to where they are and to still continue to go, they do have to make compromises in order to still not only make money to live, because at the end of the day, guys, this is still a job, but to continue putting out music if they want to put out music. And I was thinking of this too before we started recording. A great example of that outside of music that I was thinking of, like, look at my podcast. I'm doing this 100% on my own, free. I can basically say whatever I want. I don't know if that'd be different if like a company had bought me out and like, you know, I have people to answer to as far as like what would be safe to like not lose an audience, what to gain an audience. Another example, there's a very famous, if you're into podcasts, like Black podcast that I listen to called The Read. They've been out since 2013 as well, started off independent, and they became very popular to where, you know, now they're like a brand, you know, have management and all that. now they're at a point where both the hosts have their own separate shows. So they still do the read, but they have their own shows. But like I was telling Gina and Lala when we last recorded how I didn't like the new way podcasts are with like the video podcast. One of the hosts, Crystal, actually talked about that. She talked about how she hates with her new show that she has to get on camera and like look pretty and like watch her facial expressions because that's what was suggested to her by her manager. And she had to come to a compromise to like, okay, let's do video podcasts where we upload them on YouTube for like 6 months. And if we find like the stats on audio are bigger than the stats on video, maybe we could talk about again, like I don't have to do video podcasts anymore. But it's also just things like that. Unfortunately, the reality is with the way entertainment and just the art, subjective or not, if you want to make it a career like that, you gotta play into the business.
Yeah. I've got lots of thoughts on the whole, because this did cause a stir, and this was one of those things that was in that Vulture article that I think it wasn't taken out of context by the Vulture article. As we said before, the Vulture article did take several things out of context that I think were quite unfair in the way that they sort of caused drama. I think it is true that, Nicole Kim did say that, we should think about accessibility and we should think about, trying to do it. I think what's interesting in the way that it's done, like the things that surround that conversation in the documentary is you have Namjoon and the others talking about it being authentic and the actual, like the idea of, I think it's Jimin who says in a conversation after, like, look, at the end of the day, if it sucks, it sucks. Like we can't make it suddenly better. I think like the other thing that was, like surrounding that I thought was interesting was watching them try and figure out how to fit English words into the beat of a track. And actually there was, I think, one, like, I can't remember which member said it, but someone said that, we're trying to say this line in English, but if we said it in Korean, we'd get there. We wouldn't be mumbling our words, or like we wouldn't be trying to say it super fast, because this phrase is much simpler to pronounce and say in Korean. But then they had that kind of pressure of adding more English in. So there's a technical side to it of like structurally when you're creating a track, like being able to put English and Korean together and which one it works most effectively for the track. And then I think we get to kind of the symbolism of like English versus Korean and what it means. And then we start to get into the weeds of this broader conversation that has followed BTS for the longest time, which is about them, giving in to westernization, about them selling out, and all of these, the conversation that started around this since Arirang came out was bringing that argument back up again, that if BTS starts singing more in English, are they quote unquote selling out? Are they becoming westernized? And it's that constant push and pull that I think people get quite sensitive about, not wanting to feel like BTS is losing their identity. But I think within that, there's this marriage that BTS's identity equals singing in Korean. And I think identity is so much deeper than that, like a cultural identity and what makes them them. And I think this album is a great highlight of exactly what culture and what identity means, and how it goes beyond just the language you sing in and the way you dress. It goes into your experiences, the way you approach situations, the way you reflect on situations throughout your career. And I think, like, do I agree with Nicole Kim that if they sing in English, suddenly the world will open up for them? No, I think that BTS can be very successful and have been very successful in majority English. But I also get where she's coming from when you're looking at the cold hard data of, Dynamite, Butter, PTD, all being in English, and then being able to very clearly see that when they sang in English, even as an experiment, even as something to fill their days when the tour was cancelled and they had to do something, it raked in a lot of numbers and it raked in a lot of attention. It was massively well performing. So from a business perspective, you look at all English equals big reach, big profit, big everything. So you would, from a business perspective, want to replicate that. But we'll probably come back onto this, but I think like the relationship between HYBE and BTS and Big Hit and BTS is very professional. And I think that they know what they're doing. I think that, even though we see a glimpse of this conversation about, it's not like we won't see it in the documentary, because I don't think that conversation ever existed where someone from HYBE, someone from Big Hit says, you have no choice, you must sing in English, you must do that. I think it's always for them, it's a suggestion. and it's feedback, and they take it on board or they don't. And yeah, it's a very complicated topic, but I think that people definitely got quite upset about it. And not always, and I think there are reasons that I think are valid behind it, but I also think a lot of stuff has been taken to the extreme. But that's my take.
Sorry, I'm just like taking it all in. My brain is like absorbing. I think that I'm a more creative minded person. So at first I was like really kind of pissed off. I'm not going to lie. I was watching it. I'm like, this woman it's just the way she was sitting there. And I think part of it is like the way they filmed her, because it's almost like she was like telling them and then it would switch to their faces. So it gave very much like she's the big bad lady who is like telling them what to do.
And corporate comes in and stands down the law sort of thing.
And I think too, like at first, and then I had a discussion earlier with Simi with this, and it really did like put into perspective like how it was filmed. So I think that was at first, it seemed very abrasive. Mm-hmm. And then when you actually break down what she's actually saying, and then you put it in the context of what Hobie said about, you know, being systematic versus being free artists. I think back to on what he must have went through when he was trying to come up with worse stuff. Like he wanted to have free reign of some of the stuff he probably wanted to do on the stage. And the company was like, no, bro, that's not going to like be feasible. So I think too, he probably had some stuff slapped on him too with his tour. And it was like fresh in his brain because that's what because, you know, you're a creative artist, you want to do amazing things. And like Namjoon has said, you know, I want our music to communicate. So naturally, finding the way to communicate what they want to with the music has to come with different languages and thinking of language barriers, not only with them, but with their audience. So I do understand now, like at first I was really pissed off, and I'll be transparent. I was like, this woman doesn't understand. But then when you think about like, we probably wouldn't have, like you said, the music that we have or have had the productions we've had and content we've had, if it wasn't for someone actually communicating to them what was possible and then finding compromise. Because there are still things that we're getting that are very much them. Because at the end of the day, this album is very much them. Mm. And the production that gave us is very much them. But yeah, the business side has to come into play if they want to be successful. Because artists are not capable, like creative-minded people that I know of, are not as capable in the business side and well-versed, which is why they hire a team.
Exactly.
Do the things. That's why you have a PR team. That's why you have a stylist team. Because if you didn't have those things working with you as an artist, you would have no clue what to do. It would be a huge mess. So at the end of the day, like that's why they hire the teams to do that. Because as they are there, of course, to make music and be performers, but they probably are not well versed in the other things that they need to. So they need those. So they couldn't function as a huge team. And that's probably why they thank their staff so much, because they do the things that they can't. So at the end of the day, we need the Nicoles in our lives to bring us down to earth and say, listen, you want all these things, but you can't get there unless you have other things put into place. So she's there to like bring them back to earth in a way.
Plus, too, that also shows like how you have to really in a situation, especially where BTS is, you have to learn how to work with other people. Like, because we've seen in this documentary as well, like when it comes to like song choices, I do wish we saw a little bit more, but like even they butt heads creatively. So it's like if they're butting heads creatively, you imagine the heads they're butting with like creative versus business. Like you do need outside of opinions where like you think this one thing is great. And it's like, you know, sometimes talking for myself as a creative, like you could get a little stubborn. Okay. You don't want to hear what anyone else has to say. Like, but then you do have to look at it at a broader perspective, because Namjoon always brings up, you know, once you put something out there, especially when it's creative, like it is up to the person who is taking that in. You know, they have their own interpretation of it. So we've also seen that with the discourse of this album. if they meant one thing in their lyrics, someone who's listening to this can, you know, interpret it in a whole different way. So it's like also having to think in that broader sense of like making sure you don't upset yourself too much when you put this out there, what people might say. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Artists, like as people, are creatives, are stubborn. They are self-deprecating. They are one-track minded sometimes when they have a vision and they have something that they want to bring to life. Like they are, they want it. And but that's why writers have beta readers. That's why focus groups exist. That's why in any kind of business capacity, before you rush in with an idea, you get feedback from people. And they have, I think, a really good feedback system set up. And that's the whole point of it. It's feedback. And if you incorporate it or you don't incorporate it. And yeah, as I said, I think I've said this before, like, I think that hoping that BTS will be in a situation where they are never challenged and they are never questioned, I don't think actually considers them at their best. Like, it doesn't make them, they will not be better artists for never being challenged, because we can point to many examples in, you know, celebrity culture and around, when you can see, you can tell the artists that are surrounded by sycophants and surrounded by yes people, and you can tell the artists who have taken on board feedback, thought about other perspectives, been hyper vigilant of their fan base, of what they want, what they prioritize, alongside looking at cold hard data of what does well and what doesn't, and being able to balance them. And yeah, this documentary, I think, really highlighted that BTS are the latter. They are not the former, and we don't ever want them to be.
Exactly. So continuing on, like Gina had mentioned earlier, we do see, you know, the collaborative work a little bit as well when Namjoon is talking to one of the songwriters that helps them, or I think her name is A Chick, writing the lyrics for Normal. And you also see, again, how stressed he's getting for writing it. And it just goes into the things we've just been talking about, like how you need other people to kind of help you like align and focus, because as fans, and Namjoon's talked about it before, we know he gets into his head a lot. So it's also kind of just like needing certain type of people that will help you, but also like get your mind focused. So like she kept asking him a lot of questions of like, what do you want to focus on, like talking about? And then like when he was saying it, it's just like, you know, just focus on that of like what you want to relay in the lyrics. So I really enjoyed that scene. And then there is a moment too, like when I'm assuming it's during like the same writing session, because he's wearing that same shirt. He gets up to like stretch, taking a minute, but then he starts like talking about how he hates being stuck in a routine. And being in the military, you know, kind of felt like a dream, and he felt like he was being stuck in a routine. So it was really hard for him. And then, you know, being the little nerd that he is, he breaks up old Greece. I'm thinking about time in two ways: Chronos and Kairos. Is that how you pronounce that? Kairos. Okay. I don't know much about Greek mythology. Sorry, guys. But he was basically stating how, like, when he was in the military doing the same thing over and over, that was Chronos to him. But the time that he spent in LA with his members, bringing up, you know, they're like a second family to him, that felt like Kairos. So I also had to Google, I guess Chronos is like quantitative, linear, and sequential time measured by the clock. So like the minutes, hours, years, where Kairos is qualitative. So like the right time, opportune, special, or divine moments in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, yeah, I remember, this got my nerd brain going, and it came from Namjoon. It was even more, but yeah, I studied like ancient Greek, like mythology and things for a long time. And then I did a dissertation based around like ancient Greek epic. But like, yeah, it's an interesting that he brings it up, because I think it really frames, I think, really nicely the time crunch they were under. And I think the deadlines that they were all put under of like, you've got 2 weeks left, you've got 1 day left, you've got a week left and everything. But actually, I think and it kind of goes back to what we were saying like earlier about when you see them sort of like goofing around. But ultimately, I think the philosophy of it is that, yeah, we might need time to goof around, and that might not be an efficient use of time, but it might be an effective use of time, because if we just spend that time relaxing, suddenly we have a breakthrough. And I think that's really that's a really good reflection of what the creative process is like. You can try and push yourself to do something like within a certain time, but ultimately sometimes like sparks of inspiration come. And yeah, just the idea of like them spending like effective time together rather than efficient time, I think it's just like a really nice just a really nice thing that I think they grounded them in that process, because it was a lot of pressure for them to suddenly get an album out in like, like in a song camp. Yeah, I mean, once again, I love Namjoon so much.
I will say, special mention to my husband who watched this with me. He was so enthralled with Namjoon talking about time. He is a very business-minded person. He's in business. And so, but he was even like, I want to work this segment into one of his meetings, like one of his presentations, because he's like, this is such an effective way to talk even about business and about how business works and how like the time you put into something. Like he nerded out for like a good, like I had to pause to let him nerd out about Namjoon and this whole conversation. And I think too, like it was such an interesting thing to think about. And I was like, Namjoon, why are you writing lyrics about this then? Like, you should be writing all of this down right now and like using it. But I think too, like the fact that he was thinking about this too and writing Normal at the same time, he was probably in such a frame of mind of like, because when he was talking about Routine and then Normal and it all like, and he's like, I wish, because there's a line in the song that says about being able to turn your brain off, essentially. And he said, I can never turn it off. It would be so nice. And I think, too, that made him think about, I wish I could pause time and like be in this moment of like peace and like being with the people that I care about. But you can't do that. You have to keep moving forward, because something they kept talking about in this documentary was essentially moving forward. You've got to keep going. You got to keep moving. Like you can't roll time back. So we have more time to work on this. We have to like keep going. And I think that like, I don't know, that whole segment that they filmed, I was like, this is so good, but this is so telling again on like how Namjoon like processes everything and why sometimes like we all get into a rut. Like we all have these thoughts and feelings at different parts of our life. And again, it's like bringing the human element from them, like knowing at the end of the day, they're still human, even though they are the most iconic group or whatever, like they're still human men that are doing a job and living their lives to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, exactly. So more discourse because we get into the scene where they're actually discussing 2.0. And Tay is actually talking about how the lyrics so he talks about how their lyrics need to evolve, basically not only having lyrics that only speak to them and won't be like heard by anyone else. So basically, if you're like listening to a song, it's not relatable. So because again, Nicole also getting dragged online. She mentions like the old songs like On and Black Swan weren't very relatable. And I also feel like people are passing over, like when she says this, Tay actually agreed with her that those songs weren't relatable. And again, looking at the English trio that we had, were they deep, meaningful songs? No, but they were like songs anyone could listen to, dance to, etc., etc. Now, I did go back and like at least skim through like the lyrics for On and Black Swan. And like, I understand what she means, because it's like, if you're not like deep in the fandom of ARMY to understand what they're talking about, or you haven't either gone through like any type of hardships with On, or like your creative death that they talk about in Black Swan, like you won't really relate it. You might think it's a nice song, but it won't like speak to you. Like Black Swan speaks to me as a creative because I also went through that. I like to draw. I don't draw as much as I used to. And I wish I had the time, but because of like work and being an adult, that was kind of like my artistic death. And I almost kind of went through that with this podcast. So it's kind of just like things like that. I understand once again where she's coming from. If you want to push more, because that's another thing too. I think we also forget K-pop as a whole. They've really created like the form of groups mainly promote for the fans, like get that fan base, make it strong, and then like you basically can't do anything wrong. So again, if we're trying to like make BTS like out of the K-pop scene, that is one of the things we're going to have to like accept is going to happen, which I also think why they brought up Swim and like made it the contender for the title track, because even Hobie had brought up how the song could be potentially their lead due to it being like more accessible and inclusive. It does have like the themes of like love, because during the promotion of like Arirang, they kept asking us like, what is your love song? But like people can interpret love in so many ways. So like even if one song is interpreting love in one way, a person like the normal average person can listen to it and still think of love, but like interpret it in their own way. Like, you know what I mean? But they also knew they were going to like go through like challenges with that, because like Namjoon also mentioned that it is a bit more mellow and strays away from their usual sound. So it's going to be a risk either way. But like if they're going to take that risk, take it now. So I also do find it interesting, because like when you see people talk online who are into K-pop or are armies, they did say like releasing Swim as the lead was technically a quote unquote safe route to take.
Yeah. I think that whole section with Nicole again was, and this is where I give another, I think the main telling off to that Vulture article, because that I think was a real case of where that moment was decontextualized, because actually the way that I read that whole scene with the conversation between Tay and Nicole is that Tay's point was that we should write something that is more universal because it will be popular. And Nicole's comeback to that was, well, On and Black Swan is, I think, reading into it, beloved by the fan base. And it's not that universal. So actually, I think Nicole's point was, you don't have to write really universal stuff for at least your fan base to love it and for it to be popular. Whereas I think when it was taken out of context, it felt like we didn't, the Vulture article didn't like point that Tay was making that point and agreeing with her. It was just Nicole making a point that On and Black Swan aren't relatable, because then I remember like, because then that was the context we got. And then I remember I came back on Twitter saying that like, On is about overcoming hardship, like you said, Simi, and Black Swan is about losing your passion. I think those are pretty universal concepts. I think that yes, it's more meaningful in a, like for Black Swan in a creative context, but I also think like you experience loads of things where you lose your passion and you have to make the decision about whether you're going to fight to get it back. You can enjoy your job and lose passion for your job. Your hobbies, and they might be creative, they might not be. Your friendships, like your relationship. There's loads of things in which you can sort of point to being consumed by this sadness that you no longer have the love for this thing again, and then you decide, no, I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to get it back. So, and On just being about solidarity with the people around you. I think Swim was a really good choice, because I was thinking to myself, if it wasn't Swim, what track could it have been? And I can't really point to one that I think would have been, I guess Body to Body could have been a contender, because it would have had that really interesting flavor of the chat. But I don't think that would have done numbers on like, I don't know. Like, I think it would have gone down really well with some people, but not all. And I think like Aliens potentially, but Aliens talks about racism. Aliens talks about their experience as being othered in situations. So that's again, like that is not an always universal experience. It's a sympathetic experience, but it's not always universal to everybody. So yeah, I kind of think when I weigh it up, Swim was simpler and it's gentle as a track. It's not got like the energy and like the bounce and like the bam that BTS title tracks have traditionally had. But again, like some people say it's the safe option. I think it was an experimental option because it's not what they've done before.
I think it was a smart option, because how many people can put that song in the background even just to listen to it, because it's soothing. Like just the sound of it is like peaceful, and it becomes an earworm. Like it does. Yeah. Like I find myself standing in the kitchen singing Swim like over and over in my head, like
the motion as well, like Swim.
Yeah,
so
it's like so I think
I'm swimming in this.
I feel like it was the logical and best choice, because there, like, even if I argue and say Normal has a good message, I don't think it would have had the same impact. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you can't dance to Normal, and they still made Swim work with a dance. So people who wanted a dance to learn are still able to do that with this song. Like the things that they love in the fandom, when a song releases, they get a dance, they get an earworm, they get visuals because the visuals were beautiful in the music video. It was very cinematic. So I'm like, you got everything you wanted. It wasn't maybe what you thought when you think of like fire and you're like, fire, and you're like seeing everything torched and dancing like maniacs. Like, you don't get that. But I still think it is very much BTS. It's just, like you said, experimental, but it works.
Yeah. And it had, like I said, it's an earworm, but it also has replayability. So you can hear it over and over. And, you know, in the case of like people that are like trying to hit those streaming goals, we can stream it over and over and not get tired of it. And it's also like, it does have, if you want to find that layer of ARMY to BTS kind of symbolism, water and seas and that sort of like swimming and keeping going has been a consistent motif that they've had for years, because we had all the way going back to when you had the MOT7 tour posters when they were standing on the water, and then when we had the pandemic and we had on the online concert, they were in a desert. They talked about in Yet to Come going from the desert to the sea, and then them being back in the sea. And so, you know, there's like the idea of and sea being a hidden track and being about hardship, and so them now finally swim, and like, you know, the water being something that you push through as an obstacle. But then you can also read it as it's them being immersed in the thing that they have like worked to return to, which is like this really, I think, really lovely motif for peace and comfort and home and army. And I think it's got everything. I think that it's really interesting with the documentary, like about how they came to that journey and how they had their doubts of it. But I absolutely think that out of all of the 14 tracks, and, you know, there's supposedly like 120 tracks that we haven't heard, or like they wrote a lot for this album. Maybe some was from the vault, maybe some was brand new. And we have got a hidden track still on the deluxe vinyl to discover. So there is more to come, of course. But yeah, I think that of what we know, Swim just feels like the best choice they could have made.
Well, speaking of the battle of if Swim was supposed to be, you know, if Swim was a good choice for the title track, Shannon had actually mentioned a really good point as far as one contender that I see a lot of people talking about online is Body to Body, because they discuss that song a lot in this documentary, especially when it comes to the Arirang sample. So at first, we actually do get a scene where P-Dog plays it in front of Hobi, Tae, Jimin, and Jungkook. Those four loved it. And then we get a part where Namjoon and Yoongi comes in. Those two, not so much, which also birthed another meme of J-Hope just vibing out, dancing to it. And then like you see Namjoon and Yoongi look at each other, shake their head like, no. And then Hobi's looking around like, wait, y'all not feeling this? No, it's just, oh, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that so much. I've already seen it used so much. It must never die.
It will never die. And another thing too, which it did take me, I did see people talking about it online on Twitter, and it took me the second watch. Now, people are kind of misconstruing this, that Namjoon and Yoongi did not want the sample Arirang in it at all. That's not the case, because they already decided really early on that they were going to put Arirang in one of the songs. And the choice was Body to Body. The thing that they were against was the sound of it. Because if you pay attention to the documentary, Arirang is kind of like under, I don't know, like musical technical terms. So I'm sorry, guys. But like when you listen to it from what the final version we got, towards the end, I think it's like Tae and Jin's part of the chorus. They are singing, but Arirang is like under it. So like you hear them singing, you hear Arirang as well as the like instrumentals. And I think that's what they did. One, that's why Namjoon kept comparing it to like this combination of like weird foods, because it was kind of like jumbled up together all in one. That's what they didn't like. And there was two different versions of it. There was like a short version they had heard, and there's a longer version they're going to hear a little bit later when they're back in Korea. But it's just interesting because, again, we're talking about the dynamics between BTS and the Company of Compromises. You see the compromise between the members as well, because Namjoon brought up how we thought it was like too traditional to be mixed in there, and it might sound weird to like Korean people, and it also sounded weird to them because they are Korean. You know, Hobi kind of pushes back a little bit, thinking it sounds cool, but then Tae also brought up that he's worried that like Korean people might think it's like they're being too patriotic, and like it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that's what Namjoon mentioned what his fear was. And I also forgot, like with Tae saying that, it took me this morning to realize, you know, I keep forgetting, like, during this whole thing, they're freshly out of the military. they were out of the Yoongi just discharged what I want to say a month or two before, probably like 2 months before they headed to LA. So like when you put that in context, I understand now why they feared that sample being in there, not only because it's a song of like the country, but like maybe people probably putting on them, like the military changed them, they're way too pro Korea now. The government has gotten into their head, things like that, which things that people have already said of them because how big they are and in a way kind of already represents Korea, whether they want to or not. So looking at it that way, I understand the fear. But then also, Hobie kind of brings it up and like mentions that foreigners, like people not Korean, might, enjoy it, be wowed by it because you're like bringing their culture that they had no idea about. And yes, Hobie, I am one of the foreigners. I enjoyed it. So you were right on that, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all, and I think it's interesting, the whole discourse that unraveled when Arirang came out and people arguing that it's not Korean enough or it hasn't got enough of that flavor. So it's interesting to watch them talk about making it less overtly Korean with the sample because they're worried about how foreigners are going to take it. And actually, right off the bat, there are people being like, we want more. We want this to be more integrated. Like, we really like the sound of Body to Body. Like, we wanted more, people. I've saw people at the beginning, they were referencing like Deshita and referencing Hagum, like these tracks that Yoongi used where he used the traditional instruments, like the same openings or the same references to these things. So it was the idea of people actually thinking, they think BTS didn't go far enough into it. But I think it comes down to the idea of like identity again. But yeah, I think you're right. When you contextualize them being just out of the military, I think also them just not wanting to be considered like it being the theme being too heavy-handed because the title of the album and the main theme of it is Arirang. It's this very sentimental, like emotive track that is very special to the Korean people and to kind of whether I think there's a fine line between showing, as in a lot of things, like appreciation for something and then tokenizing something. It's that constant push and pull of when is this enough and when are people going to feel like we're milking something. And I think they were right to have that kind of business, that perspective and that kind of business nous of this could be this could be taken in the wrong way. But I hope that they are now, quietly behind the scenes seeing the reaction to it and being like, oh no, we're cool. Like people have embraced this. People loved it. And in fact, some people said, even when they were being negative, but silver lining, they said they wanted more. So yeah, that could be feedback for them.
Yeah. But I mean, even with that feedback, unfortunately, we've gone to much of like an underhand where it's like, oh, we wanted more, but like, not going with body and going with swim, like shows you're not Korean enough. So we have that as well. And it's like, I'm not Korean. Obviously, I don't have like access to like Korean forums and the social media. So I don't know what they are saying. Because like I keep forgetting the Koreans I have been seeing online. They're like, how do I say this? Is Koreans of the diaspora appropriate? Meaning like either Korean, but like they either grew up in America or like Canada or like just in a different country outside of South Korea. So also for them, for the ones I have seen, like give those critiques of not being Korean enough, I also understand their perspective because it's also kind of like BTS does help them bridge between like, being Korean, but not growing up in Korea compared to like what a actual like raised in Korean probably thinks of it. So I haven't seen that perspective of that side. It's mainly been Koreans who either were raised outside of Korea or like had to probably leave Korea and they probably, miss their homeland. So it's just one of those things too.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few that have been from like Korean streamers that are based in Korea and actually being really, and again, it's a small selection, like you said, of the wider picture, but I have seen them reacting like live to it and being like, whoa, like they did that. Because I think like people forget that there is, there's a portion of people that might be feeling like, oh, we don't have expectations that you celebrate your culture. You're massive now. You've grown so much beyond where you're global star. So I think I've seen a lot of reactions where it seems like it's meant a lot to them that they still really have that rooted in Korea and they still have that like bringing it back to that. I think there's a lot that are like, oh no, they're still like they're still celebrating us, which I think is I can imagine must be really, really nice for them as well.
Yeah.
My friend Anne, her mom is from Jeju and she's been in the United States for a while now. But when her mom heard the song Anne said that she started crying because she said it reminded her of home because she hasn't been home in a long time. So I do think that sentiment of missing their home, like where she was from, like where she was born and raised and not being there, she felt like a tie to that because all her brothers and sisters still live in Korea. She's one of 8. She's the oldest of 8. But she said hearing that was like very special to her. She said, because you don't hear it so much. Like you don't hear recordings. It's not something you seek out or they play on the radio. There isn't that access. So for her, like it was really special. So I do think that there is some special connections, but I'm glad they included it. Like I'm glad that they put it in that song at the end of the day. And they are tying it because they're always going to be Korean. No matter what, like they're always Korean. And I'm glad that they are also not like trying to just be a modern pop star now too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you lose that part of yourself, like wanting to express yourself. And I'm glad they've kept that message no matter what at the end of the day.
And I think like what you're saying is an interesting like juxtaposition when you think of like them not letting something go as part of like their Koreanness or their heritage.
Yeah.
When you compare that to a track like Aliens, which is talking about basically being like them being made to feel other by other people. Yes. So there's that element of even if we wanted to completely let go and detach ourselves from our Korean identity, other people in the West won't let us. They pinpoint us as different. So I think like when I listen to it, and again, like, white British woman perspective, but I just feel like there is a sense that there is a bit of like a screw it. Like, if you're going to keep reminding me that I'm different, well, I'm going to celebrate that I am different because that is, what else is there open? It's like, it's a reclamation, I think, of that identity, which I think is just really, really lovely to sort of have an album that really talks and kind of explores that.
I'm going to jump around because I feel like we've pretty much talked about my next talking point. So I'm going to go to where we cut to Jimin dyeing his hair blonde.
Just getting bleached.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump around a little bit. So we're going to get to the scene where Jimin, is getting his hair dyed blonde. And of course, many people in the fandom were like joking and saying like, this is AI. Jimin's a natural blonde, all that good stuff. Yes, he's a natural blonde so much that he actually flinched a little because of the bleach. It's fine.
Yeah, no, he's just, he was just getting a touch up. It's fine. It's fine.
Just a touch up.
It does sting. It does sting to your scalp like that. You're literally putting bleach on your head.
I've bleached my hair, but I've never went to the scalp, so I don't know what it feels like at the actual scalp.
It hurts. When they're putting that brush on, it feels like needles in the back of your head. Because it stings. Actually, you can get burns, like bleach burns in your scalp. Like, it's not funny.
It starts as like a cold, and then it just becomes like fire, and then you're like, and then you're just stuck, and they just keep putting more on. I mean, look, my central argument, I don't think it's AI, but I do think that he's been blonde enough times that if he didn't have a little bit of natural blonde in him, his hair would be fried. I don't know how that man has hair that maintains to be so fluffy and so luscious without him just being actually blonde. So
products, though, I swear, like they must condition like crazy. Because when I think about that, how many times he's been blonde and how blonde he's been, like how light they've gotten that hair.
Yeah,
it's insane. I know that's not your points to me, but
it's fine. Listen. I mean, we got into the topic of his hair, which wasn't why I brought up Jimin, but it's fine.
But that flinching was so real, though. I was like, I feel that. I sit and do that every few months. I have that exact experience.
Lord, when they say beauty is pain.
I like his little visor, though. I've never seen one of those before.
I know. Where is that for me? My eyes burn sometimes.
Yeah. The fumes.
Where's that?
God, they try.
I know. Korea, like, actually, like, they're very modern in certain things, like wearing gloves when they're washing the dishes, because I hate when I accidentally touch food when I'm washing the dishes. In like K-dramas, like, they have this little, like, clear, kind of like the shield that he had, but they have like a shield over your mouth when they're preparing food. I'm like, why are we doing that more? Like, it's just more sanitized. Listen, every place has their
the
thing.
visor though for getting my hair bleached because that would save my life.
But I had brought him up because I just think his little scene when they actually filmed him at his house was very interesting to me because of what he like brings up. So obviously after getting his hair bleached, he is at home. He's sitting in front of his computer eating dinner, watching YouTube videos. Our little precious nerd watching YouTube videos about science. I just gushed so badly. I'm like, oh, Jimin, never change.
Watching science videos and then playing League of Legends, that man is bitchless.
Yep, because even Namjoon was like, he doesn't understand how Jimin can play for about 10 hours. I thought it was just Jin.
Listen, I get that though, because I can play Sims for like 24 hours. I've done that. Yeah, I just get locked in.
I've
game for that long, and you're like, oh wait, the sun's coming up again.
Yeah. I mean, less so with something like League of Legends, because I just think that's just repetitive. You're just in a room and you're just doing the same battles over and over. But like story-based things, listen, I got to see where this goes. I'm playing, I put time aside. I book annual leave off to play these like open world games. Like I'm getting stuff done. So man after my own heart.
I'm not a gamer, so I cannot relate to any of this. I get bored within 5 seconds, especially if like I'm pressing a button and nothing's happening. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I've tried so many times.
Is the controller on, Simi? Did you turn it on?
It is on. Okay. The character is moving. I hit jump. He's jumping, but I keep falling into the cliff or whatever, the ditch. And then I get upset and I throw it. I'm like, no.
But if you throw it, that's why it doesn't work, because you broke your controller.
It still works. Okay. I haven't had a game system since the Wii, and I don't have the Wii anymore because it was so old. Like it wasn't working. Like I would put a CD in and the screen was black and white. So that was my actual game console. So that just shows you how I game. Not at all.
Fair enough.
But anyway, I just thought it was interesting because he actually gets on the topic of like being an introvert. And I feel like the relationship that has of like being a celebrity, because he starts talking about like when he was younger, he wasn't introverted. But as he's gotten older, a lot less people started being around him. He spends more time alone. And unfortunately, I just do think that's part of like the status that him and the other members just are when it comes to like BTS and like, their fame. You just don't know who you can trust really anymore to get like that personal. Which is sad to say, but that could form into his like introvertness. Mm-hmm. And he just talks about how like life goes on. It's like that. But I thought it was interesting where he was talking about like he can't speak for other celebrities because like things may look a certain way and like just not knowing what they may go through. But like also he's not really complaining too much because in a way this is a life he basically manifested for himself. Like he envisioned himself singing, wearing pretty clothes. He mentioned dancing and just like performing in front of others. So I just thought that was a very interesting like perspective that he gave of like fame is not all what it cracks up to be, people.
Definitely. Yeah, take the tap.
When you're young, like you envision like how cool and glamorous it is. But then when you live it, you see how isolating it can be.
Yeah. I put myself in that situation. I would 100%, if I had to like do like a tour and then I had a break, I'm not like, it's like if you get free time off, like you're either going to be like, right, I'm going to make you get those people that like when they get free time after they've done like their 9 to 5 or what their day job that requires a lot of energy, they either take that free time and they cram in loads of things to do, or they go and they live in a cave for 2 days. I choose cave.
I choose cave.
Private
I did
island,
nothing yesterday.
Yes, exactly. And I think Jimin chooses cave too. And I think that is absolutely fine. You need to decompress. You're demanding. A lot of people are looking at you. There's a lot of overstimulation. If you just need to focus on a screen for 10 hours, feel you, my man. Again, man after my own heart.
Yes. Because even Namjoon goes into that a little bit. I forget the exact words he says. It's when he's in the museum talking about like spilling so much of yourself like into other things. You kind of have to find a way to like fill it, and like we kind of see that too in like little montage. So like he goes to the museums a lot. I was proud of myself again. Thank you, K-pop Demon Hunters, because I recognized the tiger paintings he was looking at and the significance of that. We saw Jin playing tennis. JK was with Bam, which also was a very interesting scene when the woman was talking about how Bam like has all these health issues. It's gonna die soon. I was like, why would you say that?
No, I was so upset. I was like seeing Bam play, get all hyper and like be like, throw the frisbee. And then they're like, he's so sick. And I'm like, no.
Like,
Oh
I guess that's why I love him, because he's so ill. I'm like, no, don't say that.
Like, it hurt my heart so much.
It was just
bad,
so
like-
rando. I was like, what is going on?
I think he underestimates how much that Bam Instagram account was like our lifeline when he went in, and we're just like, how is Bam, like his brother, running the Bam account? And I'm just like, Bam has got friends. Oh, yeah.
I was just waiting for In the Arms of the Angels to start playing.
No.
I'm sure that's how we all felt with Yotan too. Probably, yeah. Maybe rest in peace.
We do get attached to these BTS animals, don't we? But yeah,
Nikki's still going strong.
Yeah, it went from them, like, the idea of them like filling their cup and like doing all the activities that make them happy, and then this woman be like, "Your dog's gonna die soon."
But then you have Mickey on life support. That dog is going to be frozen. He's going to be cryogenically frozen.
I just imagine being in a band's head. They're having this conversation around him. It's like, "Hey, Dad, what are we doing today? Hey, Dad, throw the ball.
Oh my God. That scene out of all of them was just, oh my God. I'm glad JK was like, well, that's why, we attract one another. That's why he's special to me. It's like, you tell her.
Yeah.
He's just special, okay? He doesn't have his ears modified. He's the happiest puppy.
I don't even know how old. How old is he? Do we know?
Not old. He is like maybe 2 or 3 at this point. Like he got him because he was in the bus in the soup they did. Remember he took him to the soup house. So it has to be at least maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, he was like, really, I think he was relatively, he was a puppy when it was in the soup too. So I think he was, and in the soup too was 2022? Must have been. I don't know what it was on.
So yeah, he's not even 10. He's not even like.
Well, he's got to be then 4 or 5 though. That's still pretty, especially for a big dog like that.
Bigger dogs, that's old. Because they typically, I don't want to put a downer, but like, bigger dogs like that don't typically live to be past 10, if that. It's very rare. Most of them live close to like 7 to like 9 years old. Like, I don't mean to like be a downer, but like he could, depending on his health issues, like he might not be for a long time. Like he'll make it through tour, okay? He'll make it through there. But I don't know much past that, what his health issues are without knowing.
Yeah. Well, to get happier and not talk about Bam Sudden Doom, we also saw a clip of like Hobie pottering, and I didn't know he did pottery. I need like more information of that. Sir, can I see like what you've made?
Yes. Does he make them for gifts for the guy?
Like, do you make them for like bowls and stuff to use? Do you make them for decoration? I actually need more information, but I'm not surprised. Hobie's very creative when it comes to like he not only just dance, he has a really good eye for design.
He does. A man. Well, he made those little pot things for his BTS merch. He had the little succulent looking pot.
Yeah, I love that one.
So like, I feel like that is, like you said, like it's very on brand for him, because he has an eye for design like crazy.
Yeah.
He's detail oriented.
I like the idea that he just keeps like every present that he's given the members for the last like 2 years has been something that he's potted on the wheel. And so it's just like, here's a pot for your pens. He's like, thanks. So here's another mug. Like him just being someone who just gives everybody mugs. And then they're just like, the mugs accumulate. And it's like, thanks, another mug. I just think it's just like this like dream in my head. Just keep, like, they're just like, thanks.
Open up an Etsy. I'll be there. I was
going to say, Gina will buy every mug. She loves mugs. For how much coffee she drinks.
And then each of the guys just having a sit down. I was like, listen, I live on my own. I only need 1 mug, maybe 2. Stop making me mugs.
How cute would it be to get a dog bowl made by Hobie?
That would be really cute, though.
Make a little dog.
But then instead of mugs, he's like, okay, so the next present will be a bowl. You can never go wrong with bowls. You can have too many bowls, okay?
Just wait. The Jungkook tableware line, it's coming.
I actually want that.
I would buy.
I'd buy the fuck out of that.
Exactly. Listen, this also goes into your older fan base, Hobie. Like, come on, we'll take it.
They know, they got the stat. They know that's why so much of their stuff was homeware. They're like, oh, these aren't like young kids who need like stationery and like stuff for their school bags. No, these are like grown women with money, with houses that we want to decorate.
Listen, I would take some Jungkook wine glasses, like in a design me some wine glasses with a cool colored stem, like rainbows and spiral. Yeah, make it happen.
Yes. So the last thing I do want to talk on before we officially end, again, they talked about body to body a lot. I was actually really surprised how much this song was like discussed. But they also have like, another meeting when they're back in Korea, and they're actually talking with Bong PD. He joins the meeting this time. I also don't want to like stay on this topic too much because I know this is a very sensitive topic for people. So I guess like trigger warning it away. But like Jin did make the comment of like never seeing anyone in the Hype gym except for Namjoon, and like pointed out how like everyone got so skinny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know we noticed it. I didn't think anyone would say anything. I don't like the discussion I was seeing. I never want to talk about anyone's bodies. Okay. Because that's your body's your body. The way like health looks different on everyone. But the people saying like they were too buff to dance is inaccurate. And it also shows me you've never seen like actual men, like male dancers before. Even ones in ballet are huge. Look at Wonho, who's another one in K-pop.
Oh, Wonho.
He's huge and he can be dancing the same moves that like BTS does. So like that's not the reason. But I just wanted to point that out. So
no, thank you for pointing that out though.
Jin talking about they're so frail. I'm like, Jin, shut up. It's like, when did y'all get so fragile?
Jin was just tired of being called old all the time. He had to dig. Okay,
that's true.
They call him old man all the time.
That was getting back for Jin and being like, that muscle's there's not even there. It's just
Jin's like, where'd yours go now, bro? Yeah, you talking about my muscle 2 months ago.
Yeah. It's like Taeyong was built jumping out of helicopters through glass windows, and now look at you, nothing there. It's just banter.
It disappeared when JK hugged me. Now what happened to that? Now you can see me,
right?
But yes, so basically the whole meeting again, like I just mentioned, it was talk about body to body, and once again using the sample of Arirang. And like Bong PD was like mentioning to them, because he was the one who really pitched like having that sample in there. Like he wanted that sample in there. Like just imagine like the 60 to 70,000 people in like the stadium, especially since most of them are going to be foreigners, like singing along to Arirang, how iconic that would be. But it's still their decision on how they want to keep that sample into body to body. Again, it was agreed upon that it was going to be in the song. They just couldn't figure out at the time like how to use it. Or in this case too, I don't even know if he was maybe telling them like, if you don't want it at all, it's still your decision. It could have been that as well. And then Hobie was mentioning like, he preferred the short version that they first listened to. Jungkook had also chimed in and mentioned that like many people who aren't Korean won't recognize it, but ultimately like they should choose what sounds better in a song. I know Bong PD had said something back to him. I'm like, it doesn't matter if the song is good or bad, but I didn't write it down, so I can't remember exactly what he said. But then Namjoon was also talking about like how we saw both sides, bringing up what Hobie had mentioned in LA, like as a reference for them, like when they first heard like beats from Africa or like Brazil, because, they're neither of those races or like ethnicities, how they found it fascinating and exciting because it sounds so different. So it's probably going to be the same with like non-Koreans listening to Arirang. Bong PD also brings up like how it's impossible to deny that they are once in a generation icons. How they also can't like deny that they're Korean, which what we were talking about earlier of like, at the end of the day, you can't like question their Koreanness or like saying they're not Korean enough, because I don't understand the discourse. Like, anyway, but like now their audience is on a global scale and it's not just for Koreans. So like, that's an undeniable fact, but still at the end of the day, that is their call. Which I think is what we had brought up earlier as well, as far as like we were discussing Nicole, as far as like making music to still, yes, please your fans, but like you're at a scale now where like people who aren't your fans are interested in going to tune in because they want to see what the hype is about. So it's also just making music to where like, I don't want to say like earn their respect, but at the same time, it is kind of that in a way, I guess. I don't know how to really frame that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll just add that when I heard the short version of Body to Body, I was like, too short, way too short. I'm so used to the longer version and loving the longer version. The longer it goes on, better, the more I'm vibing. And when I heard that short version, I was like, nah, I would have been, biased, of course, but I would be like, I kind of felt like if I'd heard the short version, I would have been dissatisfied because I would have wanted the vibe to keep going. So, I mean, yeah, and this from the perspective of someone who loves that album and thinks it's all just brilliant. So I'm glad they went with the longer version in the end.
I think, that's the thing I think that's confusing with the shorter and longer version. I think, so the version that we got now, I don't even know if that's considered the shorter or longer because the singing doesn't start until after, I don't know if it's Tay or Jin, after they're done singing, then the Arirang singing starts. Whereas before the singing was like looped in with their singing as well. But I prefer the version we have now where it's separated it out. It's still part of the song. And we got like the introduction slowly of the instrumentals, but we didn't hear the singings until later. Like it's not all jumbled together is what like Namjoon and Yoongi had a problem with. So yeah, the version we have now, I really like, and I'm glad they went that direction and not tried to overlap it with like the members singing.
Yeah. I also can't remember if, unless they cut it short when they were talking about the different versions, whether in one of the versions, it didn't have Namjoon coming back to going, I need the whole stadium to jump, because that bit, I think really like made it. And I think there might have been one version where they just were like, that wasn't there. And again, I was like, that would be such a shame because that whole thing, being the opening to the album and like bringing it like bringing it like circular, like bringing it back around from like the traditional chant to back to the like energy of it. So good.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I didn't see too many people have this much of a visceral reaction like they did with Nicole, which is interesting because I know Bong PD ain't really liked that much in the fandom, but that's also another thing I'm needing to separate. We ain't got time to talk about that, but I just thought that was interesting.
I was also distracted by his hand the whole time.
Yeah, what did he do to break it? What did he do?
It was just so distracting. He walks in and I'm like, what did you do? I had no idea. Like, I was just like, are you trying to be Jin? Because he had the whole hand cast thing too. I was like, what the heck did you do?
I don't think so.
Maybe he gave someone too hard of a crisp high five. No. Like, hey, damn it.
Anyway, we're not going to go into him because I could talk 5 years about that man. Anyway.
So yes, we basically finally ended with like BTS talking about like what being in BTS means to them physically and emotionally. And then, of course, you got Yoongi talking about how he wants them to be together until they're old and gray. And then Namjoon also gets into it about like, how BTS feels like wearing a crown. And, sometimes that crown gets very heavy. And I absolutely love how they wrapped up the documentary with like that live session of them all singing Swim. That was very cool. I've never seen them do something like that. And I like the way that it was like shot. It was beautiful.
Yeah. It made me excited for any like extra kind of performances like that. Like, again, I'm old now. I feel like we need a tiny desk because that was so good. That would be so amazing. And yeah, just like them stripped back like that. And I liked how, like, in terms of the narrative, like, if we're thinking of this as a documentary that is aimed at, like, including armies, of course, and they know that we'll be watching, but to people that have also never encountered BTS before for the very first time, it's like it sets up throughout the whole narrative of the documentary, like, they're back, they're massive, there's so much hype, they've worked really hard, they went through their trials, they came to the end of it, and guess what? They can sing really bloody good. And it's just like, yeah. It's like on top of all of that, here is them, like just no effect, like just straight up, just great. And I was like, yeah. And I think that hopefully there were a lot of people at the end of that. I was like, well, I guess I'm standing at BTS now. I was like, yes, you should. So it did its job.
Yep. But you can't get a ticket. Sorry. That already happened way before, and I'm glad it did before the album dropped.
I mean, you can, but the prices are crazy.
For resale, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Also, like they go up for sale for like I get like an alert of when like this thing goes up for sale, and by the time that I've seen it, clicked on the email, clicked on the link, it's like, oh, it's gone. I'm like, bloody hell. Like, yeah, people are on it. So yeah.
One thing I do need them to get their act together on is the freaking light stick. Okay. And I don't have time to go into this. We can talk about this later, but it brought me to when you were talking about the like scarcity market. Don't do that for the light stick, especially if you're not going to make it available after a certain time. You only want us to use this new version you have. Like, I'm lucky I could use my version 3 for the stops I'm going to. But when I go to the stops with Gina, I can't. And I want it.
So it's sold out in the US. Can you not get it?
No, because they messed up with Target. Man, they only had like 20 of those probably at each store. And like people were lined up since like 5 a.m. waiting for that. Listen, they even had to put a limit on it.
It was a wild at Target. I was there, but no, I was there for Caitlin because she wanted one of those Target exclusive sweatshirts.
Yeah, and they never went on sale online because they didn't have enough. And I don't know when they're going to restock. And Weverse also hasn't restocked. I'm just like...
Yeah, even after all that, like big corporations underestimating the pull and the desire for BTS, tale as old as time.
Truly.
I got mine from Korea and it came very quickly and I'm very happy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was asleep when they went on sale, so I didn't even have a fighting chance. Yeah.
It's
fine.
Crazy.
I'll find a way. It's fine. But yes, everyone, that was the documentary of BTS, The Return. Yay. Any closing thoughts we have overall? Just excited to see BTS. They're back, guys. Sometimes it doesn't feel real, but you know, they're truly, truly back. We've waited so long for this. I know there's a lot of controversy going on with this album, but at the end of the day, I'm enjoying it. I'm shaking ass when I need to shake ass. I'm crying when I'm crying. Listen to it a couple times. I can kind of tell like which ones are my favorites and which ones I don't really care for now. But again, that's part of music. That's part of, you know, that's the nature of just, you don't have to like everything your face put out, and that's okay. Am I saying I hate them? No, it's just not for me. Am I still going to be like singing along and crying if they perform those certain songs at the concert? You bet your ass I am. Mm-hmm. So gonna have the time of my life.
I'm just gonna say I played it in the gym yesterday when I was upping my weights when it was like really tough. I got my personal best. I did it, you know. I think it's part me, but I also think it's part them. So thank you, BTS. This is a great album. So if anyone's still feeling like you need to give it time to ruminate, just try it on the leg press machine. Try it when you're doing goblet squatting to fire. It's great. It's great. I love it. It's a great time.
I'm just ready to see what this tour has in store. I'm ready for tour season. I'm ready to see all the fan cams. I'm ready to see all the pictures. I'm just ready to go. I can't wait. Like I'm swimming into the next thing. I think I'm just really excited. I think we've all been waiting for this moment and it's finally here. And I'm just excited to share it with like all of my friends. I have friends now. It's so nice to have friends that get excited about the same things as you. And I think everybody's going to different stops. Everybody's going to be sharing their experiences. And I think for me, that's like one of the best things. Like, yes, seeing BTS obviously is the ultimate, but like getting to hear my friends talk about it and get excited even more is just an added benefit to having a community and having a fandom. There is toxic spots in the fandom for sure, but the pockets that you create is what makes the fandom great, is like what makes the experiences better, is being able to share it with people that you have pulled into your life because of the fandom. So if you don't have friends in the fandom, now's the time to make them. Go on those tour dates and meet some people.
Yeah.
This is your time.
Yeah. I mean, like I've been here, like I said, it'll be 7 years in October. I will have been in this fandom, and there have been some pretty low lows in that time in terms of behavior, in terms of scandals, in terms of conversations, people. But I think like a lot of us, there's a reason why I'm still here, why a lot of people are still here, and we still are just buzzing with so much enthusiasm for their tour. It's because of them. I think their enthusiasm like gives us energy. Like you can see how raring to go, how much they've waited, how glad they are to just have this kind of freedom to do it. And I think just, like the ARMY community is, like I said, we definitely got our issues for sure. But end of the day, you take the rough with the smooth. And I think it's just really nice to have found a group of people that even when we'll just be hyping each other up. There'll definitely be things that they will do on the tour stops in the US that I will probably be absolutely seething with jealousy. And I just recommend people avoid me on that day. But then there's going to be something that they're going to do in London that they aren't going to do anywhere else. So the shoe's going to be out the other foot, and I'm going to love it. So that's the community part, and I love it.
Yes. And of course, if you listen to us, if we're, the only place you can, fangirl about BTS, we will definitely be talking about the tour and the tour stops that we go to. So look out for that as well. We're all just here to share a common interest. Before I do my closing, Shannon, was there any, shout outs for you personally that you want to give people, like where to follow you? Thank you again so much for joining us on, once again, this very long episode. I knew we were going to go over time. It's fine. We like to talk.
100%. Where can you find me? So I am at, not going to be able to spell this out, Shnoony on TikTok. I have been quiet recently, but then I have kind of come back with a bit of renewed energy for the comeback. I am on a Discord with these guys, and that is where I spend a lot of my time. So, I think it's a bit of a closed Discord, but if you know people, maybe get yourself an invitation. And and then I'm on Twitter. I'm ranting. I'm about. Most people will just see me like ranting in separate platforms, and then they'll just like have the connection. So just know I'm lurking wherever you are.
Well, whatever social media platform you want to use, like for people to follow you, just let me know. I'll put it in the description box. But thank you guys so much for listening to yet another very long episode of I Was Thinking. You can follow us on all social media except for X at I Was Thinking Pod. If you have any questions, on Spotify, you can comment like on the episode itself. So like, let us know how you thought about the comeback live as well as the documentary. You can also email us at iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. It would be really helpful if you rate us the highest ratings, get more people to find us. And I think that is it. Yes. So I've been Simone. That has been Gina and our lovely guest, Shannon. And we will all see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.